This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, hello, and jumbo, jumbo, everyone, and it's another very warm welcome on our sunrise drive, and you can see that beautiful eastern horizon where the sun at one point will be pushing up, and you'll be able to see my very favorite, what I've always called the golden hours, either in the morning or in the afternoon. You see all the torchwood trees there that make the Mara ever beautiful, and that's part of the savannah of the Mara. My name is David, as always, and with me on camera is Manu. Good morning, sir. And to all of you, buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches, depending on where you are in the world. But for us, it's another lovely morning here in the Mara Triangle in Kenya, with degrees of 17 degrees Celsius, 63 degrees Fahrenheit. That kind of cloud or that kind of sky to me is always giving me a feeling of good things happening. Yesterday, I'm sure for those of you who are following us, we had all the attraction happening, or wonderful sighting happening with my friend Pat, and we'll be talking about those lions later. What we found for the first time, maybe, we had two prides that were fighting, and apparently those two prides have one commonality. Their pride males are the same. They are what we call the three Kichwa males, but yesterday we had two of those males. We had Fang and we had the Half-Tail. Quite a distance from where I am, but we shall be getting more update if either Patrick or Lauren may go back to the scene of crime later, because there's so many things we still want to identify or unravel. What I'm trying to say is those two males must have fathered those cubs. So what happened, nobody knows, because there was no reason for those cubs to be killed if actually these were their genetical fathers. I personally think something was very wrong, or something unusual, or maybe something that has not been seen in the dynamics of lions. Because at one point, I also doubted actually if it is the males that killed those two cubs. I'm still a bit lost. So either we're going to be sending there some forensic experts later in the day and see whether we can tie all the dots together and find out exactly what happened. Because I looked at that footage much later, I didn't see any other males, just two. And as I said, Fang and Half-Tail. The third male has been missing. The last time the third male was seen had joined the Owino Pride, and they were on some sort of kill. So why that happened leaves, I would say, so many questions than answers. But I'm sure before maybe the end of the day, we shall be knowing what transpired. Because to me, that was quite unusual. I mean, lions, males do not kill their own cubs. Infanticide is very common. It has been going on every time. And I really want to congratulate Pat for having held his heart together in that very sad, well, I wouldn't call it sad, because to the animal kingdom, that is very normal. That happens every day. And I'm sure there are so many cases that we do not witness or see. But having captured that on camera, I would say it was very heartbreaking for Patrick. But I want to say, well done, Patrick. You're able to compose yourself, and you did a very good job. Well, personally, I'm not visiting that particular area. I'll be going to my usual area. I'm sure you all know, the Sausage Republic. Well, we had all these comments from the viewers who thought that it was the sub-adults of the other pride that could have done that. Now, apparently, there were two prides there. The Marsh Pride and the Ololo Pride. And Olololo is a much larger pride than the Marsh Pride. So, and out here in the bush, numbers count a lot, of course, size and strength. But for the marsh pride to have, say, beaten or pushed out and even bringing down those 3 cubs of the Olololo pride, I got lost. I got a bit confused. But that's why I said we might be sending either some experts there later in the day to find out which sub-adults are these, because the good sub-adults that I know that could have done that belong to the Olololo, not to the marsh pride. So there's a bit of, I would say, lots of confusion in that particular area, and I'm sure later on in the day we'll be finding out what exactly transpired. So we've got some giraffes here. I want to change that topic a bit because it still was a little bit sad, but again, as I said, well done to Patrick for having held his act together. Now, who are these very close to the road? Moon? All right. We want to say good morning to some tall animals here. So let me give Manu the angle he wants. Let me know when to stop. Keep going. Happy? Good morning, madam. Why are you so close to the road and you do not look worried by us? You can see how tall the giraffe is, and what man is trying to show is the height or the horizon of the sky against this very tall animal that we got here, not only in Africa but the whole world. And this is a Maasai giraffe girl, chewing cud. Hello there. She looks very pregnant to me. I could be wrong, but that size of belly, I would want to bet and say she could be counting what, maybe 9 months, 10 months baby there, and having another 4 months to go. I like her courage. I mean, she's about barely 3 meters away from the road. And this is the beauty of what we do when animals can trust you, when animals can respect you, and vice versa. It's so good when they notice or realize that the Homo sapiens are equally wonderful animals. Spora, you say this is lovely. I agree with you. And just to see that girl, Spora, there, chewing cud and being so composed, just not worried of her presence, and the sky, the eastern horizon, she's now happy, Spora, and she has said, I've given you enough setting. I am moving away. What do you think of my walking gait? 2 and 2, 2 legs of one side at the same time. We call that ambling. Most animals do amble, but I think giraffes have the best ambling gait of all of them. Why are you arcing your tail? Wow, there's another giraffe there, apparently sit down. Very, very good. Now, we have always given the giraffes Latin names of camelopudus and camel coming from camel and pudus coming from leopards. And I am not sure that Tristan wanted to talk of leopards this morning.
Well, I suppose we are going to talk about leopards since we've got a leopard that is doing what he did most of yesterday afternoon and is hiding away in the long grass. There you can see the spots of Tingana's side as he sleeps away in what can only be described as rather miserable weather, really. It is raining and cold and not very pleasant at all. Okay, it's not raining very hard, but it's this kind of misty rain that just makes everything damp, which is not very pleasant. Anyway, as David mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Craig this morning. And you may not have even seen his thumb because it was that quick. Craig is definitely full of beans this morning and is lightning fast with his thumb movements. But anyway, we're going to hopefully see a little bit more kind of movement from Tingana today than what we had yesterday. Yesterday was not Tingana's finest performance. He just lounged about in the thickest thicket he could, and kind of lay and slept right next to his kill. And this morning he had his head up when we first got here, and it was actually fairly pleasant, but now he's kind of flopped himself down behind the most annoying branch that kind of cuts him in half, and because it's raining with the roof on, we can't really position in any other way to be able to show him better. Now, I'm very, 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 very surprised that there is no carcass in a tree anywhere, and that he still possesses this carcass. I think he's had a number of things that have worked in his favor this morning, or during the night, should I say, that has led to the fact that he is now sitting here on the ground with his carcass on the ground and has survived a full night without being discovered. And I think the thing is that one is the hyena at the den yesterday. Craig was telling me, and so was Rusty, is that they were as obese could be. And so they obviously had fed incredibly well at some point yesterday. Second thing is that this animal was killed only yesterday, the kudu that Tingana's got. And so that means it wouldn't have smelled too much. And that, coupled with the fact that it was overcast, fairly rainy conditions, would have only helped to keep the smell kind of down, if you want to call it that. If it had been hot and muggy, that smell would have really started, or that meat would have rotted much faster, and we would have had a much more kind of pungent. And the third thing, I think, is that the baboons that have been close by have been shouting at everybody that's moved past. They've been heard throughout the night, and that maybe has just deterred some of the animals from walking around in this potential area, and potentially would have given Tingana a bit of a heads up. So he's been lucky in that regard. I don't think he can keep another night without hoisting it, but he should have eaten enough during the course of today, or tonight, last night and today, to be able to then hoist it this evening and kind of feed off it. And it'll be really nice if he does hoist it, because the tree that he would hoist it into is quite pleasant, and we should get a far better view of the Duke than what we've been having in the last sort of 2 safaris. I'm also hoping that this morning, with a bit of rain and things that is falling, that the grass gets really damp and he decides to rather walk up onto the dam wall and lie there. Rob, you're saying he's being his senior citizen self? Well, I suppose he's earned the rest, hasn't he? Not only has he patrolled this area for a number of years, it's quite scary to actually think that he's been kind of territorial in this area for the last sort of 6 to 7 years. I say 6 because when he first arrived here, obviously it took him a bit of time until he settled as a territorial individual. He was quite sort of nomadic to start with, much like what Hukumuri was. But even if you look at sort of 6.5 years, that's a long time for a male leopard to have been dominant, let alone, kind of moving around. And so he's earned the right to be a little bit sleepy. And then you add into that yesterday he managed to bring down a food item for himself and kill himself a kudu. And for those of you that think he just stumbled across the kudu, it's not the case. Some of the guests that were at Vuyatela camp actually saw it while they were having breakfast. So just after we finished our morning safari, remember we started much earlier yesterday morning with the drone. Just after we finished our morning safari, he grabbed that little kudu and pulled it down in front of people that were watching. So they most certainly knew that he had a kill, and that he managed to do it himself. So he's still got some fight in him, and I suppose that's taken it out of him a little bit. And now with the full belly and overcast conditions, the only thing to do is have a bit of a rest. It's a proper bed weather morning, if you ask me. Now, the reason why I want to sit with him, even though I know that the visual is not very good, and obviously he's quite sleepy and he's got a meal, and that's not really going to promote too much movement, is that the baboons are starting to wake up. Yesterday afternoon, we had the baboons right here on the dam wall moving around, and they then went towards the lodge, and they've roosted up in the lodge. And I can hear them now starting to slowly stir as the light is starting to get brighter.
No.
Brighter.
I can hear you, but not the audio from the light speed.
As it's starting to become more and more sort of daylight, the baboons are starting to call and wake up. And I'm wondering if maybe they're going to come down and head this way. If they head this way today, it's going to be really interesting, because yesterday the baboons didn't see Tingana at all. They walked right past him within, I would say, not even 15 meters. So they walked incredibly close, but they didn't spot him. But you could see there was one male baboon that was looking in this direction and was very kind of cautious and knew something was up but wasn't quite sure. And so I wonder if they come this way now where Tingana is lying, he most certainly would be spotted, and it would be really interesting to watch the interaction between baboon and male leopard. I've seen some crazy baboon leopard sightings before, and it doesn't always go the way you think it would. Everyone always thinks leopard will charge in and chase baboons, and the baboons will scatter in all directions and run away. It's not always the case. I once watched a sighting of 4 leopards. So it was Ravenscourt, her 2 male cubs, and her older male cub called Shinzele. And they were walking down the road and they bumped into a troop of baboons, and they got absolutely annihilated by this troop. They were chased up trees, down trees, all over the place, and every single leopard ran for its life at that point, and those big male baboons were not taking any of it. And so it will be really interesting to see whether or not these baboons come in. If they do, whether they're going to be sort of antagonistic towards him, or if they're going to be defensive and try and move away. I also want to see if they do try and chase him, will they potentially then steal the kill? Because remember, baboons will eat meat as well, and they can sometimes scavenge. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see that interaction if the baboons do come, and something that's worth kind of waiting for. So that's our plan for the morning. We're going to try and figure out whether that's going to happen. We can, like I say, can hear the baboons in the distance. They're not very far away, and so hopefully they're going to meander this way and across the dam wall, and we might get some sort of interaction between them and Tinky, because I don't think anything else is really going to wake him up. There's no sign of any hyenas coming this way, and so I think more than likely he'll be very, very sleepy unless the baboons start heading here. The other thing, I suppose, is that it is fairly overcast and fairly rainy, which means that there might be a potential for hyenas to be moving late in the morning, and kind of being around. The other thing that's also am a bit surprised about by this morning is that Thandi is also not here, because she was actually seen not too far from here, heading roughly in this general direction last night as drive finished. So Rusty bumped into Thandi on the way home and looked like her tracks came in this direction. So I was hoping to see both of them here, but alas, no sign. Now, talking about Thandi, Oeli is out and about this morning, and he's on the search for the Queen and to see where she went.
Good morning to you all. My name is Oli, and joining us behind the camera is Seb from Kabul. So our mission for this morning is to look for Thandi, our queen, the lady who's 13 years old. So we heard that she's in this block. So we are trying to search and search and search. We are not lucky yet, but hopefully we'll give you a nice spotted Thandi sighting. So for any questions and comments, you can send them to #SafariLive on Twitter or YouTube chat stream. So it's still a little bit dark, and I'm still using my spotlight. Hopefully you will find something. Oh, there's a scrap hair there running. So she's in this block. She was last seen in this block. So because of the rain since last evening, I think we won't be lucky with the tracks, because I'm sure they are washed away. So what happened at the Mara yesterday with Pat, it was heartbreaking. I couldn't watch more of that. I just switched off my computer. It was hectic to watch. But you know, that's lion's instinctive behavior, if I can put it that way. But I'm one of the sensitive person to watch such events. So let me stop again, so to have a nice lesson. So maybe I will hear the birds singing or alarming. So let's just keep quiet and listen. Nothing yet. I only hear the greenback Camaroptera. It's a small bird. no alarm calls, and our roof is up. And so if you see any poles on your screen, we are sorry for that. On the screen, we are sorry. But I promise I will find this beautiful cat this morning. And I wonder, Tristan was on leave, and immediately after his arrival, Tingana, Kalamba, Tandi, all in the property. He is really indeed a leopard whisperer. Do you agree with me? So Tristan has found Tingana, so that gives me hope that I'll find Tandi. Where you, Tandi? So if I'm not lucky with Tandi, I will go straight and check at the hyena den. Hopefully I'll find something there. Maybe we'll see the cubs running around, being active. No, sometimes these few droppings can't stop the babies playing. So for now, let's listen, and while I'm doing that, let me send you to Tristan with a sleepy Tingana.
Well, good luck. I hope that you find the Queen, and hopefully she's heading in this direction. It'd be quite nice to see the Duke and the Queen together once again. I'm very interested to see Tandi, because Sebastian and Trishala told me the last time they saw her that she was looking quite rotund, and that they thought potentially she might have some sort of, maybe be pregnant. But I would be interested to kind of see what she looks like. It's obviously very tricky to tell, particularly if she's only going to have one cub. If she is pregnant, it's always very tricky to see until right at the end. So I'd like to see the Tandi. I haven't seen her in weeks and weeks and weeks, in fact months. The last time I saw Tandi, I think, was in January. So it would be nice to catch up with her again at some point. So hopefully Oily can find her and we can kind of see how she's doing and maybe get some screenshots and things and figure out. In the meantime, though, as you can see with Tingana, he has lifted his head, scratched his chin, and proceeded to roll over and flop down the opposite way. So he's now lying in a different spot, but a slightly better spot, I would say, for us to watch a flat cat. At least we can see his kind of body and his ears in the long grass, and he's not hiding behind the stick anymore. But he seems to be very, very relaxed at this stage. Michael, how long did it take Tingana to fully habituate? Michael, it took a while. I'm not going to lie to you. It was probably... now I've got to go back a long time to remember this. A lot has happened in this many years. I've got to remember exact timelines. But I seem to remember I had a sighting of him just before I left Chitwa, which would have been end of 2012. And we started seeing him in 2011. And while he was much better, we had him mating with Insele, and he was not having any of it. He kept running from the cars after mating with her. So he'd come and mate with her in front of the cars, and as soon as he had finished, he would realize, hang on a second, there's a whole bunch of people watching, and then he would run. And so that was already at the end. So it took probably a good year to get him fully relaxed. And, you know, it was a slow process just because he really didn't want anything to do with people. We used to see him and he used to be one vehicle and still skittish and kind of move from one side to the other and kind of dart into thickets and really try and actively lose you. And it was only when he actually started mating regularly with females, and then also on top of that having big kills like something like a kudu, that he really started to kind of get used to the fact that vehicles came around. And it took us, like I say, the first sort of 3-4 months he was a one vehicle sighting, and then slowly but surely we started to see him more regularly at night, and then 2 vehicles, and eventually after about, I'd say 8 months to a year is when we actually got him to the point where 3 vehicles could be with him during the day, and he would amble around rather than kind of trotting or trying to hide or something like that. So it took quite a while, a lot longer than, let's say, Hukumuri. Remember when Hukumuri first arrived, he too was fairly shy and fairly kind of nervous of cars or fitting. I remember we had a sighting of him where he just didn't want anything to do with us when Scott first found him on foot, and then we went in with the vehicle, and we couldn't get anywhere near him, and he was kind of just zigzagging all over the place and just wouldn't settle. And then you look at him now, he's also very relaxed. So it depends on each leopard, but Tingy was quite a long time. It took us a fair amount to get him relaxed, and that's why he got the name he did. You know, it was after 6-7 months of trying to get him relaxed and he's still shy. That's kind of how he ended up in getting the Tingana sort of name. And I remember that whole process. It was quite an interesting one, because obviously Tingana at that time was the name of Shadow on Juma. So a lot of people don't know that Shadow was called Tingana and Tundi was called Saseka. And I don't know why the names were changed or why there was a difference in names. I'm not quite sure. It was something to do with Juma and then the other reserves, and then eventually, you know, Tingana male became Tingana because everyone else knew Shadow as Shadow on the western side of Juma, and so kind of Tundi kept her name and Shadow kept hers, and then they dropped the Saseka and Tingana name tags. And it's so weird to think of a female leopard called Tingana now after spending so much time with male Tingana. Anyway, right, it's starting to get much lighter now. The baboons are still kind of calling in the background, so I'm hoping that they will come. We're going to have to be a little bit patient to start off this morning, and hopefully they'll move in this area. But in the meantime, though, let's send you off to David, who's got spots that are far more active than these.
Well done, Christian, and you truly deserve that title of the leopard whisperer. And we've got different spotted animals here. These are the spotted hyenas, excuse me. And not sure exactly what this clan could be, but Manu is guessing it will be part of the North Clan by virtue of where they are. But it's more of a middle area between the North Clan and the Happy Zebra Clan. Excuse me again. And not sure whether they're trying to get some bugs out of that one that has laid down there, or it's the creepiness of how hyenas greet each other. Definitely not a way of greeting that way. And could be a sign of submission, maybe by the one that has gone down. And whatever they were to do, they either have finished.
Suckling.
Or are they trying to suckle? Yeah, I'm not thinking they're suckling. I mean, this is just 2 cubs for a very small mama. They all look to be of the same size, eh? I'm surprised that such a small, I would say, hyena, she looks too small to be a mother. And those cubs, they look too big to be cubs. But yeah, I mean, excuse me again, I was just worried or not sure exactly what they were doing. That's very interesting to see such big cubs suckle, but it's not unusual. I mean, they suckle for a very long time. Sometimes they have been known to go up to 18 months still, depending on the milk of their mothers, which is quite unusual for predators to do that. Most of them are always weaned very early, but hyenas in general, and most of the spotted hyenas, sometimes have even been known to go for 2 years still suckling. It has been rather cold this morning. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, I might have forgotten to mention to you this morning, comments and questions are always very, very welcome. Hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, because that's the only way we are able to engage. I'm not sure where she is going, but she's just walking towards us. And let's find out what she wants to do. As I said, I would guess this is part of the North Clan or the Happy Zebra Clan. Very majestic on the walk. Good morning. And just like we saw the giraffe earlier, they get, sorry about my head. Let's just look at her as she walks past my right. Good morning. How are you? Sorry about my cough. Now, this has happened once in a while when these hyenas get very busy. So I just want to find out what exactly she wants to do. Hello there. Who is familiar here? Me or Manu? Manu has been dealing with these hyenas for a rather long time. And she's in far. She's right there. And she looks very courageous. And she's just looking back at the ones that are circling in the middle of the road. I'm not sure she wants to go and rejoin them again. Hello. What are you sniffing? She's very close. She's just about 2 meters from the road. Earlier, I was talking, it's such a good feeling when you see wild animals warming up with us. You saw the giraffe. It was very close to the road. Now we have a totally different type of animal. And this is a spotted hyena, which has come very close to us. And there she is walking away again. And I'm sure she wants to go and join the ones on the road there. Sorry again about my head. Let's just see her as she walks back to join the 2 cubs that are still suckling. They must have been very hungry. I'm looking at them to be too big. Sorry, I missed the question from Sinazi there about the cabs. She's just about to catch up with the other female that's still suckling those cabs. Very good. Snazi was talking earlier for how long, the hyena calves will suckle. In general, it's anything between 18 months to 2 years. They have been known sometimes to suckle up to 2 years, which Snazi was saying earlier. It's rather unusual, or rather a very long time for calves to suck, or to nurse for that particular period, which is a very long time. In general, most of the predators will wean their cubs very early, but hyenas, and more so the spotted hyenas, 16 months, 18, sometimes up to 2 years, it's very normal for them to keep suckling. And you can tell these 2 are not living, are not stopping to suckle in the near future. They must have been very hungry. And either the female, if not sure the female, I guess it's a female because hyenas very matriarchal, has gone on the side and joined them. And of course, it's safety in numbers. And there's another one popping up there. There's another member who looks to me pretty young, much younger than the ones that are suckling. I'm surprised. You see that one? See how dark she got her cubs, her spots rather. Very smallish. Could that be the mother? And another one coming out. Ooh, those are 2 tiny, tiny ones. So that is what I would be expecting to be suckling. And maybe this could be their mother. I do not know. Let's find out if they also may join the other 2 in suckling. And this might remind me of the synchronized suckling of lions. And maybe these ones don't look very hungry. They want to go to the other mama who is already suckling her cubs. We haven't seen hyenas allo suckling. I'm talking of, female hyenas suckling other cubs. Personally, I haven't seen. Jeanette, good question. Now, these two you see moving here, it's not mud on them, it's their age. Apparently, when hyena cubs are born, they are all one color, black. And at the age of about 2.5 to 3 months, the spots will start appearing. So that, Janet, is not mud. That's their natural color, as you've seen another female or rather another hyena popping up. Always very difficult to tell males from females, but just my quick guess, all these would be females. So, Janet, that is their natural color. And when they're young, they're all one color, which is black. 2.5 going to 3 months, spots will start showing. But of course, we know sometimes they love playing in the mud, but this is not the age I would expect to be mud wallowing. But looking on their legs, they look rather dark. So I would just think this is just their natural color. Now, Jeanette, if you look at the two that are suckling there, you see they are not as dark, because my guess is they are a lot older. They are way over maybe 5, 6 months. Or thereabouts. Now these two, we need to see one of the females here either suckling them, and they do not seem interested. Cookie, good question. Can I smell the hyenas when they're this close? Well, I'm looking at about 20 meters from where they are, Cookie, but we've got such a wonderful camera that it seems they're like just next to us. Now, being early in the morning, maybe they haven't started, smelling. We haven't had so much sun or heat on their bodies, but many people will always say hyenas smell, and they have got such a strong pungent, such a strong stench. But as it is, as far as I'm concerned, zero. Everything's still smelling very fresh from where we are, because again, it's still very early in the morning. Now, none of those two other adult hyenas want to suckle the young ones. I can't see those other two that Jeanette was asking whether they were full of mud or it was their natural colors. Either they have gone to some warmer grass just to keep themselves warm, and I can see them on the other side of that one particular hyena, the one that's farthest away from your screen. And definitely that's not a suckling position. Well, the road is a bit warm, and that is why they're there. Very good, very good. Now we are talking of lots of hyenas this morning, lots of predators. Tristan had the leopard Tingana. I have hyenas here, but I think Ollie is trying to compete with the Mara because he might have also gotten a hyena for himself.
Yes, I'm trying to compete with the Mara, but I only have this one hyena which is sleeping. This hyena, I think it's ribbon. You're looking at the coloration, because I can't really see all the features to identify this hyena. He's lying nicely there. You can see she's in a little bit hole. That's what animals do. I've seen dogs doing this. They dig, and then they sleep in there. Hello, good morning. Oh, looking at this face, the left ear. I think this is ribbon. Definitely this is ribbon. Do you agree with me or not? Yes, this is a ribbon. What a nice, cute face there. So Ribbon was born 2013, and she currently has 2 cubs that are still black and less than 2 months old. Hello. Oh, she's very full. You really deserve a nap. No cubs out yet. Oh, this is cute. She's so lucky because she's very full and there's no cub bothering her. So this hyena belongs to this clan called the Juma clan of hyenas. She's one of the low-ranking females in the clan. And interestingly, if you know Ntima, it's one of the members of this clan. Her first litter was Ntima, which is a female, and one possible litter who's known as Lamula, but Lamula vanished. Look at that. It seems as if she has eaten the whole impala. Oh, this hyena is sleepy. So what I'll do is, I wasn't lucky with Thandi, but I won't lose hope. I will leave this area because it's more sleepy, and I will search to the eastern direction, up to the south direction. So for now, let's leave this sleepy hyena and go to Tristan with his sleepy cat.
Kind of see the baboons between everything, but they are slowly starting to kind of move around in this direction, and Tingana is not impressed by it at all. He's kind of watching what's going on and is very, very much annoyed by the fact that baboons are around. He's kind of crept himself into a little thicket so as the baboons don't shout at him. There's one baboon that is quite high up on a branch that's sort of on the dam wall itself, and is just kind of looking around, and so Tingana's watching him. You can just see him there on that branch there, so that's a big male baboon that's sitting and watching, and he's kind of just staring at it, having a look. And can you hear the baboons a little bit making a bit of noise? So Tingana is trying to kind of hide away from them. He doesn't want to attract the attention of these guys. And the reason why, I was saying to you earlier, is that baboons will actively chase leopards when they want to. They'll sometimes kind of go after them, and they could potentially even steal his meal, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. You would think that baboons wouldn't be a scavenger from a leopard, but it can happen from time to time. Now, unfortunately, with the way the roof is and everything else, it's very tricky for me to show you where Tingana is. The way that he's moved has made it a little bit tricky to actually see him. He's kind of gone to the right of where my roof is, and so I don't think Craig is going to get much view of him. But he's amazing how he kind of leopard crawled himself. So he kept his belly right down on the ground and slowly crawled his way along into a thicket in order to try and hide away, particularly from those baboons that are trying to sit up high and are almost like little sentries that are able to kind of spot what's going on. You can see how high that baboon is going now. Unfortunately, that's our roof that's getting in the way. Craig, let me just slowly turn you a little bit so that you can see Tingana a bit better. You can just kind of make him out over here, so that should help Craig a little bit. Unfortunately, like I said, the roof is on, so you see how he's got his head kind of down. He's really trying to make sure that he is as well hidden as possible, and that's purely because the baboons are getting up into the trees, and he knows if one baboon sees him, there's going to be that shouting that's going to take place. There's going to be a really kind of loud bark, which is going to indicate that he's here, and then they're going to start coming and investigating, and particularly the big males, they're going to get very, very excitable, and then you're going to find that they're going to be quite upset about the fact that there is a leopard around. And it could go either way. Then either they can scatter and run away, or they can come and challenge him. Would Tingana go after a baboon? Well, probably not. The risk of going after baboons is one that will probably result in some sort of injury. They do it every now and then, if they are desperate and in certain areas where food is not as easy to come by, well, a baboon is a potential food item, and so they will. And big males like Tingana probably are the ones that would go after it. Or if they can find a young one that's on its own, they'll kind of grab it and try and rush off. But generally, they're quite wary of baboons. You'll find most times leopards will try and kind of avoid baboons. It's not worth the risk. Remember, baboons have a serious set of canines and jaws, and the fact that there's lots of them can often be quite dangerous for a leopard. So, you know, it's an animal that is not really worth the risk, if that can kind of the way that you can put it. Much easier to go and hunt things like, you know, impalas and kudus and duikers and the likes that are, you know, far less able to defend themselves than what something like a baboon is. So we're going to just try, I think, reposition ourselves slightly, because there's another vehicle that's just come into the sighting, and the way we positioned are blocking everything for everyone. So just going to see if we can move ever so slightly. Let's just try and... I don't want to go too far forward because his kill is right at the base where I am here. So I've got to just try and kind of left hand down us quite heavily. So once they're in position, then I'm just going to try and come back a little bit. There we go. Good. There we go. So we're all good now. They can see, and so can we. And so that will be a lot better. Now you can see Tingana is still going to hide. We're going to sit with him a little while longer. We'll see if the baboons come closer. And in the meantime, up you go to David, who's on search for the lions.
Very good. I mean, baboons and leopards have never been friends. They have never been friends, and they're not going to be friends today. Sorry about the dust there, Manu. But you have always known, you know, baboons going for leopards and leopards going for baboons. Now, leopards have also been known to go for birds to feed on, and this is one of them. They have also hunted birds like bastards, like this particular one. This is called black-bellied bastard. Just 2 seconds, I catch up with my friend. Yadi, Nikolai, nakito nyuma. Sawa, poa, hatujasikia kitu. Hatujasikia. Sante. Sorry, that's a friend of mine, and we'll always compare notes, you know, what have you seen, what haven't you seen. So I just told him there was some nice, wonderful hyenas by the road, and what we were speaking is our local language called Swahili. Kenya is a country with over 40 tribes and about 45 different dialects. So Swahili is our national language, and that's what we use to communicate. So we'll always compare notes very quickly. The direction was coming from, what did you see behind? But he just told me he saw some jackals, and then I told him I saw some hyenas, which I thought my hyenas were more appealing. We have concurrently agreed with Manu, who is filming with me today, that those hyenas were from the North Clan. They were so relaxed with us. She came very close to the car, went back, and the ones we saw circling on the road, even as we passed them, because they were right in the middle of the road, I'm sure you saw on your screens, we had to move in the grass. They did not stop circling. But the most interesting thing that I found out, because I stopped like literally 2 meters from where they are, those calves are the same size as their mother. And that's why initially I wasn't sure what they were doing, but I have seen them and confirmed they are, or they were suckling. And let me see if we stop here. Just the dogs, or the jackals this friend of mine was talking about. Is that good, man? We'll keep going. My friend, I hope he's going to see the hyenas I promised him, because he also promised me, or he just told me, he have seen some dogs behind. And I think these are the dogs he was talking about. The black-backed or the silver-backed jackals. Hello there. What a day it is today. Always moving twos. He's out of the frame. And let me see how far he has gone. Manu, if you look here, sorry, I mean, in this particular bush here, I think they must have killed, you know, they seem to have been eating something, and I guess they must have killed a bird. There's so many feathers there, and the one we just saw feeding, either there's some sort of bird they must have killed, because there's a lot of feathers there, and that particular area looks to be very disturbed. So most likely, whatever it was brought down there. You see all those feathers there. I wouldn't be able to know. I would guess maybe it could have been a dove of some sort. That's what they could have killed early this morning, or someone else killed it and they were finishing on it. Yeah, definitely. All those feathers tells you that someone was brought down there. Very good. Let's keep going. I think that was a good gentleman, having told me I have seen some dogs behind, and then I told him I've seen some hyenas. Hopefully he will see the hyenas, because I have seen his dogs, which are black-backed or silver-backed jackals. Yeah, no, those hyenas were from the North Clan. We have confirmed that 100% from how comfortable they were, you know, with us by the roadside. But still, I've been very impressed that that mother is still suckling such huge calves. Those calves and that mother are of the same size, which is quite interesting. I see those other two little calves there that were dark and full of black spots who are not suckling, and I guess that should be the suckling age for hyenas. So North Clan relocated. We all know that Lauren has been following them very much, and most likely should be out this afternoon. Daniel, how are you? And you're asking whether jackals are related to foxes. Jackals, foxes, wild dogs are all canidae. Is all that huge family, and they are all sort of dogs. And you're right, they are related to the foxes and to the wild dogs. So they are all related. And also to the bat-eared foxes. So the dingoes, foxes, and the coyotes all belong to that one huge family, and they're all related. The European fox, and I guess the North American fox, and here in Africa we got the wild dogs, and we also got the Ethiopian wolf. They are all related in that big family. Good question, and always good to hear your name, Daniel. I have said every day I have gone out, I have not missed an elephant. Snazzy, you are asking, do jackals have dens? Yes, Snazzy, jackals, two things they have. We know about jackals. Number one, they're very monogamous, Snazzy, jackals. And number two, they do have dens just like hyenas. So Snazzy, jackals do have dens. And you might go to a den of jackals, Snazzy, and get about 5-6 jackals together. As much as I'm saying they are monogamous, you'll always see a male and a female. But you might see cubs, you might see small little youngsters of jackals with maybe 3 adults or 4 adults, and wonder you're saying that jackals are monogamous. What jackals will do, you'll have, of course, one pair, a male and a female, and then they'll always bring in other fully grown helpers to, you know, just help raise the youngsters. Yes, they do go dance, and once in a while we have seen them in the dance. The only thing is, Snazzy, they keep moving the dance every other time. Unlike the hyenas, which may have, you know, fixed dance for a very long time. And hyenas will always relocate their dens for very good reasons. Manu, who is this here on top of this tree? Well, we have a bird of prey here. How are you? And exactly, I'll be sending a tweet, #SafariLive. Who do you think this particular bird of prey is? I've been seeing here the last 4 days in the same tortured tree, and there have been two. Today she is or he is alone. So my question to you, who do you think this is? Tweet #SafariLive on Twitter to David and tell David, who do you think this is? You have all the ID marks there, the orange feet, the orange beak, the bluish, darkish color on the feathers, and they normally tend to perch at the very top of trees. Either they have been mating because there have been two here the last 4 days. So I'll give you only one clue and I'll tell you she or he is a hawk. So what hawk do you think this is? Rinda is a harrier hawk. Very close, but not quite. Not harrier hawk, because harrier hawks are quite big, and you rarely see them in such open areas. You do, but they tend to be in little thickets. And harrier hawk, when you see them perched on trees, you'll always see that they got no balances. You'll always see like their knees are wobbly. So you'll always see them moving left, right, and not as still as this hawk here. Try and keep trying. James, you are always winning. And James says is a dark chanting goshawk. Very well done, correct, James. Is a dark chanting goshawk. Excellent. And another similar goshawk to this one will be the eastern pale chanting goshawk, but apparently it's very difficult to see them overlapping. Areas that you'll see the dark chanting goshawks, you will not see the pale or the eastern pale chanting goshawk. James, very well done. Me and Manu here give you some 5. Very good. Let's go to the sleepy Tingana and find out what Tristan will tell us.
Well, yes. I suppose Sleepy, not so much at the moment. He's doing his very best "I'm trying to hide" impression. So he's getting himself into as thick a little area as possible in order to stop the baboons from seeing him. The baboons are still hanging around, and I'm actually quite surprised that they haven't seen Tingana this morning, because the angle that they're at, unfortunately we can't show you because of the roof and how we positioned at the moment, but the angle that they're at, they're quite high up in a tall tambweti. And the ability for them to see him, I thought, would have been there. I thought they might have been able to, especially his back end sticking out like that they would have seen the spots. But seems as though maybe he is kind of well hidden from where they are, or they just haven't really looked in this direction. But they are milling about very close to where he is, and eventually I think they might start drifting across the dam wall. They've kind of been slowly edging along. And so we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe we're going to end up with them kind of coming this way, in which case it will be very interesting to see the reaction. I'm not sure if you can hear them in the background. They're making quite a bit of a racket, particularly the young ones. They've been full of beans this morning. Tuti, do the baboons try to jump on our car with the roof? I can honestly say no. That has never happened, and the reason for that is primarily because the baboons they're not very relaxed in this area when it comes to vehicles. So when they see vehicles, they generally are a little bit more kind of wary, and they'll sort of stay away. And that's probably because there's not a huge percentage of vehicles that drives past them. And so this big, moving, noisy object, they rather keep their distance. And so we don't actually get baboons coming too close to us at all, and therefore not jumping on the roof. I think if they were far more relaxed, like the baboons in Kruger that see vehicles all the time, and people unfortunately feed them, which is something you must not do. If you go to any national parks, do not feed animals. It's not good for them to be feeding them some of the things we eat. But they get very relaxed there, and then they jump on the cars and all kinds of things, so they would probably do it with ours. But it's not a safe thing either to have baboons jumping around on your car. Everyone always thinks, oh, it's not that bad. A baboon can be seriously dangerous, and a bite from one of those is no joke. A big male baboon, if that gets hold of you, you're going to be in bad shape. You're going to have a lot of massive lacerations from their jaws, also bacterial infections and all kinds of other things. So best not to mess around with baboons, and I'm quite glad that they don't see our car as something that they can jump on and play on, because it would be a tricky thing to try and kind of keep them away from it, and certainly would end up probably having a bit of a sort of issue with it. And once one learns, it's very difficult to stop the rest. So, no, they don't jump on the cars, and we like it that way. Try and discourage baboons from even jumping on houses and the roofs, and try and kind of keep them out of our living spaces, because they are not nice neighbors, if you want to call it that. They are very destructive and incredibly powerful. People don't think baboons are as strong as they are. We have aluminium sliding doors at the various parts of where we stay at Inga's, and they bend those aluminium doors completely, so they bend them open, and to the point where they even break the glass sometimes, and are able to then get in and cause all kinds of havoc. So they can be a bit of a handful. And it's generally in the winter months. You find in summer months not too bad because there's enough food for them, but in winter they can be a bit tricky because there's very little food, and then they see through a window, they see a whole bunch of food items. It's no wonder in desperation that they break through things, but try and just discourage them from being there and kind of chase them away when they're around, and generally then they start to learn that this is not a safe place to go and forage for food. But, I mean, they haven't been around much the last week. They were here a lot when I got back from leave, and then they disappeared for a week. And this is what this troop does, is it's the same troop that comes around. They've got a nice little kind of loop that they go through. They go from sort of this area, and then they head all the way south down towards Little Gowrie, and then they mess around at Little Gowrie and Chitwa and Annette's, and then they come back again. It's like a little loop that they go through. So, Vessel's Camp, Hoffman's Camp, those are private places, but they go and cause havoc down there, and then they come back up to Juma and cause a bit of trouble here, and then when they get chased away from here, then they go back, and it's kind of this loop effect that happens with these guys. It's seriously intelligent, though. It's one thing about baboons, is that you've got to give them credence for their intelligence and their ability to figure things out, and how they actually go about getting into houses and various other things. In fact, in Cape Town, they even know how to open car doors, which is quite something. So they've figured out that people don't lock their doors at certain tourist spots, and then they'll open the doors and kind of steal fruit and food and various other things. Right, Craig, we have a whole bunch of Nyala that are walking our way too, which is going to be quite interesting. I'm not sure if you'll be able to get them, but they are slowly coming through the drainage line. It's a whole bunch of males that are walking down. Now, as much as Tingana does have a meal, and obviously he in no way needs to hunt anything, if an opportunity presents itself and Nyala get too close, he most certainly will go after them. And it's only because of sort of, what's the word for it, instinct, that he'll try and kind of hunt these things. So it'll be interesting to see if the Nyala do come this way. Tingana's definitely watching both the Nyalas and the baboons with a keen sort of look about him. The Nyalas are still a long way away, though. It's probably a good, I'd say 60 meters from where we are currently. And they would have to come a lot closer before he would attempt it. If he was hungry, different story, but if he's full like this, it's more an opportunistic thing. The Nyala walks right near him, then he grabs it. Bob, I would love to be able to tell you. We can't see the kill very well at all. All I can see is fluff and fur inside the bush. It's right here in front of me. So in this bush over here, inside there is where the kill is. And you can't really, as you can see by that, is you can't see much. So just in between those branches, even for the camera, it's a bit tricky. I can see a few bits of fur. So I'm not sure how much he's eaten, if I'm honest with you. But judging by his tummy, he's got quite a full, round, rotund tummy. So I suspect that he's eaten a fair amount. Now, I would like to know from you guys, yesterday morning he was spotted on the dam cam, before we found him and before he made this kill, and was he full or was he very, very skinny at that point? Because it would be interesting to know if he was full prior to killing this, and that would then explain if he hasn't eaten too much of this, why he hasn't eaten too much of it. But it'll be interesting. I mean, like I said, I don't know how much has been consumed. It doesn't look like he's eaten all that much, if I'm honest. And the nice thing for him is that this carcass is going to stay nice and fresh. It's not going to smell too much, and the meat itself is not going to be all that kind of rotten because of how cool it's been and the rain that's around. There's no hot sun like 2 days ago, which would have made that carcass stinky and smelly and rotten. Right, so we're going to be patient and hope that the baboons and nyalas and impalas and all kinds of other things that are milling about start heading in our direction. In the meantime, back up to David, who's on a birding morning and has another feathered friend in a tree.
Well, the baboons that Tristan have are very different from the baboons that we have in Kenya, because those are the Chakma baboons, and in Kenya we got different species of baboons. We got two types. We got the olive baboons and the yellow baboons, and more so here in the Mara we only got the olive baboons. Now, I was dealing with the duck chanting goshawk earlier, but now I got another bird of prey here. I will not want to ask you the question or ask you who she is, because I'm sure you all know that this is the black-chested snake eagle. I initially thought, wow, a martial eagle, how exciting is this? And I thought, wow, it'll be my big trophy for the day. Then on a closer look, is black-chested snake eagle. From a distance, you can easily mix them up. But comparing to the duck chanting goshawk that we just saw a few minutes ago, you notice they tend to patch almost like 90 degrees from where they are. But again, both of them, this one and the duck chanting goshawk, are on a torchwood tree and definitely getting the very top part, patching at the highest point. Of course, that gives you the advantage of being able to spot whatever they'll be looking at. And if you compare the sights of snake eagles and martial eagles, I would respect the snake eagles. They got wonderful, wonderful vision. And I just confirmed a friend of mine who's an expert of eagles, and he told me seeing 2-3 miles is possible for the snake eagles. And you'd see her just leaving where she is, flying down a mile or two, getting to the ground and picking herself a snake. I've seen that once. That's way back in a national park in Kenya called Amboseli. But that was a brown snake eagle, and we happened just to drive along the road, and we were parallel with that snake eagle. And after about a mile or so, we saw her coming down, and what she picked up was a black mamba. And I thought, how would it see it? But yeah, we have known with time that's very possible. Very patient eagles, they're never in a rush. And one big difference between these eagles and the other eagles is they do not got booted tarsi. If you look on their feet, all the way up to the elbows or the legs, I mean their knees, they do not have as much feathers, or basically they don't have feathers, snake eagles, unlike the martial eagles or the crowned eagles. One big common they have, all these eagles, is the yellow eyes and very hooked beaks to be able to tear meat. In general, you see them solitary, as she is or he is, and very unusual to see them use. But it's not where we'll see that, of course, if they would be mating. The duck chanting goshawk, we just saw, I have been 2 on that particular tree, but I think one might have gone to the market today. I'm not surprised to see this one here on her own. Well, hopefully preening herself, just to make sure when the opportunity comes. You see, she keeps turning her head, and any slight movement, either close where she is or further down or further up, she'll pick or she'll confirm a sighting. Just like us, how we go looking for animals and then we confirm sightings and we let our friends know. So once she confirms a sighting for herself, she'll go for it. Dismal, good question, and you'd like to know why they call it a black-chested snake eagle while the chest is white. Now, it's only at Dismal, she is looking a different direction. Not sure what I would do to make her turn, but this will give me a couple of seconds because I'm going to show you something on my book of birds, and I might help to explain to you why they would call it black-chested snake eagle. So give me a couple of seconds. I think I have the wrong or the right book. Okay. Hold on right there, Manu. Thank you very much for making sure Dismal will be able to understand why we call it that. And 3440. Okay. Now, Dismal, I hope you're still there, and I'll be able to explain to you why we call her the black-chested snake eagle. And Manu, let me know when you can, and you'll be coming to tell me the best angle. How's that? Now, Dismal, I hope you're still watching, and Manu, I want us to go to number 3 there. Most of the ones on top are snake eagles, and in general, they all got yellow eyes. But Dismal, if you look carefully there, on top of the breast, right there, that's all black. See that, Dismal? Very good. So the breast is basically white, but on top of the breast, this is what they call the chest. And birders, all the taxonomists think, that's exactly what I want Dismal to see. So if you look carefully there, Dismal, that bit from the neck downwards towards the chest is all black. And that's why they call it the black-chested snake eagle. Very good. And some of how they have been able to identify these birds worries me. For example, we got black kites. When you see black kites, Dismal, black kites are brown, they're not black. There's certain other smaller birds around here that are called crows, and these small birds, and they give them such long names. And if I see one, I'll be showing you, like the yellow-throated longclaw for these birds. But we take those names. Well, let me head down to my destination of the Sausage Republic, and I think only want to talk about arachnids.
People are being lucky this morning, but I'm not lucky yet. I left the hyena den. I'm in search of Thandi, but I can't find any evidence of where she might be. No tracks, and it's still raining. We can see this spider web. It's so beautiful. I stopped here because last night I was studying a little bit more about the spiders and how they produce their webs. It's so interesting. And what we see here, you see this gap? It has there's no pattern there. There's only few webs there. That space you can see around there, it's called a free zone. Spiders do that on purpose. And then you see this middle circle there. Actually, let me go out and then show you how this thing spiders build this thing on purpose. What I was telling you was this part. This is called a free zone. And then this small thing you see over here, this web, this round web, it's called a hub. And then the whole part, it's called a catching web. And then the outer part of the spider web or the frame is called the breach line, because that's where the spider starts to build when they're creating this web. And then we also have in the middle here, there's this web that runs from here straight in the middle until there. That's called the foundation line. Interesting, hey? Oh, spiders. And not forgetting the radials. There's parts that hangs on to the frame of this spider web. Ooh, it's nice. Sip?
Yeah.
Let's hit the road and go and look for Tandy. Yeah, amazing. Something it's how they produce this web. And spiders have silk. As you know, they produce silk, but not all the spiders produce webs. Oh, we're losing a signal. I must go stationary. FC just said that. Am I good, FC? Oh, so I'm stationary. I'm trying to get my signal right. Let's go to Tristan with Tingana.
Gotta wow them.
Well, not much is happening outside either. We've had obviously luck with Tingy, but we haven't really kind of had too many developments other than that the baboons have seen him, or some of at least, and have shouted at him a little bit and kind of made a bit of a fuss, but no one's really done anything. Tingana doesn't seem to be too stressed. As you can see, he's made himself a lot more comfy and is now on his side rather than being on his haunches. And the rain is starting to fall, and the baboons, well, they're fairly quiet at this stage. Now, I'm going to show you where the baboons are, because they might bark at some point. So just going to have to turn the car just a little bit for Craig. So let's just turn upwards. So we should be able to see one of the big males straight through there. If I turn the car like that, then Craig should have a view of them on the branch, kind of across the way from us. So that's where they are at the moment. Now those baboons, there you go, you can hear them shouting. I'll keep quiet for a little bit. Now of course I'm keeping quiet, they're not going to shout, are they? But let's see when this male gets a bit higher if he's going to be the one that makes a loud barking sound. I often say that baboons are alarm calling, and I'm sure a lot of you have probably not heard it. Let's see if he'll shout now. You see he's got himself up. You can also see the rain that's starting to fall now. Big yawn. Now look at the size of the teeth when he yawns. There we go. Amazing, isn't it? Serious, serious teeth that these guys have got. It's no joke, the size of their canines. And it's why, like I say, that they can be so dangerous, even to something like a leopard. I'm hoping that not bull, I don't know why I said bull, but I'm hoping that, there we go. Did you hear him? Let's see if he'll shout again. There's a big yawn. He's Mr. Harry casual about the fact that there's a leopard. At this stage, I suppose they're fairly happy with the status quo and how it kind of is at the moment. They are not too kind of stressed by the fact that Tingana's sort of sitting and not moving around. I think that's part of the reason why they haven't come down and challenged him in any way. They know that he doesn't have to worry too much about his kind of movement. Tingana's just lying there, and so wouldn't be surprised what they do is start to come down and start to move off. But that baboon's going to take up residence there, and you'll find all the little ones. It was amazing. There was one baboon that went up this tree and shouted, and every single baboon that was on the ground went straight up into the trees immediately to all look around, and then a whole lot of them started to actually alarm call. There you can see one of the younger ones is mimicking dad, or at least one of the older males. Remember, in a baboon troop, it's not just one dominant male within the group. There's going to be a whole bunch of males that are constantly vying for their dominance and for the right to be mating with females. So there'll be a number of big males within a grouping, and so even if they do lose the so-called dominant individual, they will be able to replace that quite quickly with another male that will come in. But you can see how everybody is moving now, so they've decided time to leave the area. It's also because a vehicle is coming in to see Tingana, which means we're going to have to reposition ourselves as well. Janet, a firm. So a baboon's canine is there. Then what you see from a leopard. So leopard's canine, while it is still impressive, is not quite the same length as what you see from something like a baboon. Now I'm going to stop here. It's not ideal for me because I'm going to have to duck my head down because of where he is, but it's going to be for the other vehicle that's arriving. They can at least position themselves now behind us and still be able to see Tingana. You can see Tingana, unfortunately, has not woken up. I was really hoping that he was going to wake up and decide to start moving around with those baboons sort of shouting at him, or even go towards his carcass. But alas, the old Duke is, well, doing what Dukes do, and I suppose sleep with a full belly on a rainy day. Can't say I blame him. It's the right weather to be asleep. Craig was at the back here, was telling me he'd rather have been in bed this morning. It's not very, very pleasant weather to be out and about, so I'm not surprised he's made a little nest for himself to have a good sleep. Carol, so yes, baboons will be territorial in that they will have a, well, I suppose not territorial, it's probably not the right word for it. They have a home range, and they will, if they come across other baboons, fight with them. So it's more that, I suppose territory is a bit of a sort of stretch for them. They do have an area that they will utilize, and they do have competition from others, and if they come across one another, there is often fights that break out. But they're not as territorial as something like a leopard or a lion that will actively go and mark an area out. They are more kind of animals that will move around according to food availability. So when they need food, they'll start to try and find it, and they might then push out of a certain core area and deeper into a home range of maybe another set of baboons, and then there'll be a bit of a tussle as to who gets the rights for that water and food availability. So it depends on the animals, on the conditions, but generally they are not actively patrolling a territory and scent marking and those kind of things. It's more a home range, if you want to call it that. But there will be territorial males within it who are going to try and dominate in order to have mating rights and be sort of in charge of the troop. I'm just trying to see if this vehicle's got enough space. It looks like they do, to be able to see us. Now, Tingy's at least put up his head for 2 seconds and then popped it back down again. So still sleeping at this stage. Hopefully he will wake up at some point and decide to start moving. I'm really surprised, though, that we haven't seen him feed at all. So the 3 hours we spent here yesterday and so far this morning, there's been no feeding taking place at all. And I would have thought at some point we would have seen him at least just kind of mouth it or drag it a little bit or have a bit of a sort of chew on it. But I suppose he's happy with where he is. Right, well, we're going to spend a little bit more time here. We'll see what's going to play out with the baboons still shouting at him and see whether or not he'll move around. In the meantime, back up to David in the Mara.
Well, yeah, Tristan, don't leave Tingana. Just stay right there. and see whether we might see an action like what we had last night in the Mara with the lions. As I said earlier, and I'm sure Tristan must have said, baboons and leopards have never been friends. I'm just going back to all the scenario, all the happenings of the lions yesterday with Pat, and looking at the feelings or the views of the viewers, that they think that some of the sub-adult males would have committed the crimes, or would have not crimes per se, because that's the way of the lions, would have killed the 2 or 3 calves yesterday. And as I said, we got more questions than answers, and I'm looking at if it were those sub-adults males were fathered by the 3 Kichwa males, Fan, the half-tail, and the other male. So why would they, kill the calves of the same lineage? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that's number one. Number two, I do not know how far the males were, half-tail and Fang, not to come in on time to make sure that does not happen. Because every time I watched that footage again and again, I saw the 2 fully grown males trying to keep calm and, stop it. But I'm having a slight, school of thought that actually the bigger problem yesterday was between the females. As much as we may call it infanticide, as we are going to maybe unravel that later today or tomorrow or the next coming few days, I think there was a very bad blood between the 2 prides there, the Mash Pride and the Olololos. And I can only think the bad blood was brought by competition of resources. I do not see any other reason. I mean, the Mara Triangle is huge. There's enough room for everybody. And as yesterday, they had that hippo kill. And being the rainy season now, being very quiet in terms of the amount of prey that is available, chances are reduce the numbers, and then, overall we'll have enough to eat. Otherwise, as yet, I'm not pointing any finger to those pride males of the Olololos, the Mash Pride, and the Mash Breakaways, and the Mara River Pride. Those 3 males have always been in charge. But should we have seen new males coming in, for example, Scarface with his, 3 brothers, or maybe the Old Donyo Pike male, the 2 nomadic males that you have been seeing, then you would say definitely this is a very classical example of infanticide. Kichwa boys fought out, and the new coalition would be taking over, and that's exactly what they do. Bring down the calves, females a week or so in estrus, start mating, and have their own generation. I really would want to follow that story and know exactly the ins and outs of it. Otherwise, I love the sausages, but I'm sure either Patrick or Lauren will be giving us more info, maybe what they find out this afternoon. I'm currently in the very heart of the Sausage Republic, and I'll first start going where I left them yesterday. You're asking if Kichwa males would know their calves during a battle. I would say absolutely, absolutely. I mean, animals are clever, and there's that internal connection, between them and their calves. So, Edges, I would tell you for a fact, I would want to believe that the Kichwa males would definitely tell their calves. They mated with the females, They have seen them born, they have seen them grow. We have not seen, I do not remember, I could be wrong here, I haven't heard or seen of where a male lion killed its own cubs' ages. So I would want to say the Kichwa males would definitely tell their own cubs. And that's why, I'm not sure ages you're watching yesterday, on a number of occasions when the fights or when the fight between the females was getting very intense, you see the males coming in and just rolling. I'm not sure you've seen how congressmen or how people behave in parliament, and when people are or become unruly, the speaker will always go, order, order, order. So from what I saw the Kichwa males doing, they kept saying order, 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 and every time they would stand up and go like that and just roar, you'd notice immediately things would just calm down. So I would say definitely they will know their own cubs. So I was saying earlier, I'll start going from where I left the sausages yesterday. And sausages are the lions, or pride of lions that live here. They've been known to love to climb trees, and in particular, a type of tree that we call sausage. It bears fruit that takes the shapes of sausage. That's why we call it a sausage tree, and they've been known to climb it there. I mean, that's how we name our characters. That's how we name our lions, our cheetahs, our leopards, just because of maybe their behavior, what they do, or sometimes what they look like, either from IDs. In that particular pride, we have one female that we call the kingtail, who got a bent tail. Very, very good. Now I'll start by going there and then see what happens. Tristan, do you want to tell us anything about Tingana?
Well, yeah, I suppose we do know one or two things about him. Spent a long time following Tingi. It's been many years now, kind of watching him as he's gone along, and it's impressive to see how long he's held tenure as a dominant male. It's a lot longer than most people would think. You know, a lot of the time people would read books and it would say male leopard will be dominant for, you know, anywhere between sort of 4 and 5 years, and Tingi's pushing towards 8 now, or 7 years is probably about as the time that he's been proper dominant male. But that is a very long time, and he doesn't look like he's slowing down. I mean, he's looking as pretty good. He's certainly not as active in terms of vocalizing and scenting in this particular part of the world at this stage. I think that might change, though, if he potentially mates with Thandi, or he's mating with any sort of female and they start to have cubs in this area. I think his ability to vocalize and sort of scent mark and patrol will be far more if he has something to protect, you know, in the form of Tlalamba these days. She's much older, so he doesn't really have too many cubs around, and therefore maybe vocalizing in this particular section just isn't a priority. Maybe he's doing a lot of vocalizing and marking up into Buffelshoek and Torchwood. We don't know. Obviously we don't see him much on those sort of areas, and so not 100% sure what his behavior is there, but it's been amazing to kind of see how well he's done. I mean, as much as some people dislike Tingana for his sort of killing traits that he's shown once or twice, he, for me, has been an example of just how successful a male leopard can be. Long tenure and has fathered a number of cubs. Obviously a lot haven't made it, but he has fathered quite a few, so really, really good to see our old boy doing well. Now, of course, you will be hearing the baboons shouting in the background. They still can kind of see him and still shouting at him. He doesn't seem too perturbed by it, and it's been a bit of a non-event, if I'm honest. I would have thought the baboons would have been a lot more kind of irritated by his presence, but I suppose the fact that he's not moving and just lying here is maybe why they haven't been nearly as sort of panicked by the fact that there is a leopard around. Generally baboons get quite bent out of shape with leopards, but this lot seems to be kind of all right with the fact that he's just lying there. It is starting to rain a lot heavier now. It's become fairly miserable actually out here at the moment, so I'm not surprised everyone's just staying in their own place. Kaolin and baboons' eyesight's very good, so they have eyes on the front of their head, much like us, so binocular vision, which means their depth perception is very, very good. And just like you or I, if we go up into a tree, our field of view is quite far. I mean, we can see movement from a long way away. And so baboons and vervet monkeys have very, very keen eyesight, and it's often why we struggle to find predators when baboons or vervets alarm call. It's purely because they often can see them. Remember that they generally are much higher than what we are, so they climb trees and they can get a sort of very different point of view, and they can see far. And so sometimes you'll find baboons will be alarm calling here, but they're actually seeing, let's say hypothetically, a leopard on quarantine, and we kind of looking around where the baboons are and we don't find anything, and that's the reason why, is that they see a long way. So their eyesight is very, very good. If you think, like I say, you go up onto a tall tree and have a look at how far you can see and how far you can notice movement, you'll figure out very quickly that it's a long way. So their eyesight is very good. And I was surprised this morning that it took them as long as it did to actually spot him. There must have been something in the way at first, because as soon as they went up a tree with a different angle, they saw him immediately and they started to kind of shout and make a bit of a noise. But their eyesight is fantastic really. I suppose it's probably the best way to describe it. Elisa, do baboons and vervets get along? Well, the thing is with baboons is they're so much larger, so vervets generally just give way to the baboons. And the thing is with them, even if baboons, hypothetically, we're going to hunt them, vervets are smaller, lighter, more nimble, and so the chances of a baboon catching a vervet unawares is probably quite slim. But yes, I've seen them both in the same tree and moving around and kind of not really worrying about each other too much. But the vervets definitely have a respect for the baboons and will give way when the baboons move. So let's say there's a food source and a vervet's there. The baboon's coming up that tree, the vervet will kind of go higher up and then sort of jump off into the next tree, or kind of just stay right up in the tops of the branches and wait for the baboons to be finished. They won't challenge them for a food item. They know the baboons are far stronger and bigger, but you do see them in the same spaces fairly regularly, and there's not too much in the way of competition or any sort of aggression, really. I think it's always a situational thing, though. Baboons are an animal that are going to do whatever it takes to survive, and I would imagine if you get into periods where you have drought, then vervet monkeys would potentially be a food item. Then baboons might be far more aggressive towards them and try and grab them. Baboons are like that. They sometimes will be very, very, very chilled around animals, and then they start to get hungry and there's less food around, and then they become difficult. And a prime example of that is up in the Zambezi Valley and Lower Zambezi, is that it gets very dry there towards the sort of end of the dry season, and very little food. And you'll find then the baboons actually become the sort of, I don't want to say apex predator, but they certainly become one of the bigger predators out there. In fact, they probably hunt just as much as if you a lion or a leopard, and they'll go after warthogs and impalas and duiker and steenbok, all these kind of antelope species that you get, even baby kudus, squirrels, pretty much scrub hares. They go after all of those things, and they will hunt them regularly. So I'd imagine if they become desperate, then a vervet monkey would be something that they might try and hunt and try and grab. But it would be a difficult animal to catch. A vervet monkey is fleet of foot and is good at climbing and moving around just as much as a baboon is, so it would be a hard prey to go after. But so far we've seen no fleet-footedness at all from pretty much anybody, really. Baboons have been certainly taking it very easy. Tingana's been taking it easy. No one's really kind of made a move, to be honest. And so at this stage we just kind of in limbo. I was hoping, like I say, that Tingana would wake up with the baboons, but he just seems to be completely relaxed at this stage and really doesn't seem to want to move at all. Can't say I blame him, to be honest. I would be the same, I think, if I had a meal and horrible weather. I would also be lounging about in the grass. Good. So we're going to reposition, try to see if we can get a slightly better view than what we've got of his body and his belly. And so while we do that, let's send you back across to Ollie, who's still searching for Thandi in this dreary weather.
Oh, nothing yet. What I can find is only the bushes. I haven't seen any animal activity because of this rain. But now I'm on my way to dam. I'm driving on the eastern part of the reserve. I'm searching. We'll find that's Thandi. I have to go stationary again. FC said so. So you know, the cats, more especially lions and leopards, they walk vast distances in this kind of the weather. So we had an update of the Inkuhumas, our pride of lions. They went south to our neighboring reserve. So we are not lucky with them. But now we'll go to Bevelshoek. Hopefully we'll find Scuba Steve because we saw a lot of his footprints here. I've never seen Scuba Steve outside of the water. But for now, let's go to Tristan.
Right, Ollie, if you could see Scuba Steve, could be exciting. We also got hippos in the Mara, which we rarely see unless you go, of course, very close to the Mara River. To be exciting if you get him out. And more often than not, I remember I kept seeing him in the water. Now, we just stopped here at a vantage point, and we got our fire lookers out just to scan the area. And what you can see are just elephants in the beautiful Mara Triangle. And you can see the openness of the grass. And this is one major difference in terms of vegetation between the Mara and Kruger National Park, or in particular Juma, that here you could comfortably see for a couple of kilometers or a couple of miles straight without what I call visual pollution. The only visual pollution you see will be those torchwood trees, which are very iconic of the Mara. And what we're trying to do is to look for my favorite pride of lions. That one particular tree you see there that's broken, that Manu is showing you, Manu is the camera operator with me this morning, is where we left them yesterday. Now, they went there after they had a drink, and we had the most exciting sighting yesterday, seeing about 12, 13 lions with cubs of different ages having a drink in a pan of water. It was just wonderful, right? There's something walking there. Which side of that tree? At the bottom of it. So I also gonna pause for a second and look. Are you seeing bottom of the tree, Manu?
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to look at the same tree, because if that's the case, what Manu is saying is correct, well, we might have to go back to that tree. Do you see the topi on the right, Manu? Looking towards that tree? Any movement on that tree, I would say it must be those lions. That's where we left them yesterday. That tree, we give it a name and we call it not the sausage tree, the giraffe tree, because it takes the shape of a giraffe. And they remained there because they had just had a drink and having pretty small cubs.
Yeah.
You think so? So we might be heading that particular direction. And I thought because they had small cubs, they would have moved to go to look for a different area. And yeah, if you look carefully there, it's quite difficult to see. Let me look again. But I can also see slight movement with my Stravonskys. And if that is the case, then it would mean they did not leave that spot. And there's a toppy to the right, if you look carefully, and that toppy is so glued towards that tree, she is not getting her eyes out of that tree. And chances are they could have remained there. You remember a couple of days ago they brought down a huge male buffalo, and if they did that, they would go 2, 3, maybe 4 days without making another kill. On that, because they know they have cubs, they need to keep eating, especially the females, and also Kingtail, who got the smallest or the youngest cubs. So what we want to do is just turn around and go to that tree. I gave it a pass earlier, not thinking, they could be there and trying to go in the thickets, because still rather cold. Was maybe guessing they could be still there trying to hold their cubs before it gets warm for them to come out. But what I want to do, get a place, turn around and go to that tree that I told you. I call it the giraffe tree because of the shape it takes of a giraffe. Is it a Maasai giraffe maybe? But a giraffe is a giraffe. So we get a place here to turn and go right there. And most likely they did not move. They must have spent the night there. That was yesterday morning, like now it's 24 hours ago. And I'll not be surprised if they're still there, which is rather unusual. It was more of an open area in terms of having cubs. I'm talking about the weather. It could have been a bit chilly for the cubs. Kingtail got the youngest. I'm sure you saw them yesterday for those who were watching. She got 3 very teeny small cubbies. So let's go there, cross fingers, could be them, and if not them, we're here for a long time to try and get them. All right, I got a plan now. Let's all cross fingers. Hopefully we'll be seeing your favorite cubbies. And let me take you back to Juma, to Tristan with Tingana.
Well, good luck. I hope that you find them, David, given that you had to drive a long way down to where the sausages are. Hopefully you'll be lucky and find what's going on. Anyway, we've moved slightly and you can see we get a much better view of Tingina, who's still being shouted at and being moaned at and complained at by the various baboons that are around, and he's very unperturbed by the fact that they're shouting at him, and is just lying in the rain, really, which is pretty much how it's been for the last few days. Are they shouting at you, boy? Are they ruining your sleep today? Doesn't seem too concerned, does he? He's almost just rolled over and had a nice kind of bed that he's made for himself there. He's got a thicket of grass that he's lay in, and it's amazing how many areas you can see where he slept during the course of the night. There's all these little patches that have been flattened where Tingana has had himself a really good nap at some point. Now, the carcass, I had a quick look when we tried to reposition. I can see it a little bit. Craig won't be able to see it where he is. But he has, by the looks of things, eaten quite a bit off the back end. It was a fairly new kudu, or baby kudu that he grabbed. So there's probably about half, I would say, maybe 3/4 of it left. So still quite a bit that he's got and will be able to kind of feed on. But certainly isn't making life easy, that's for sure. He's kind of being on the sleepy side, which has really not allowed us too much in the way of very decent views of Tingana. It's a tricky spot as well. It's he's kind of lying in a dense area, and it's not really conducive to seeing pretty kind of views of him, that's for sure. Gizmo, can big cats like this one get food poisoning? Well, naturally, no, not really. They have a very strong constitution. Survive it. But what I will say is that they can potentially get a lot of worms and things like that that can affect their overall condition, which then may lead to them struggling to hunt a little bit. But food poisoning, not so much. They can be poisoned via food, though. So people do often poison cats, unfortunately, by using food as a bait and then lacing it with poison, which is a very indiscriminate way to kill anything, because there's so many bycatch is not the right word, but there's so many other animals that are hugely affected when people do those kind of things. It's terrible when people poison carcasses, because birds and insects and mammals of various descriptions will be affected by that. But from natural food sources, very, very, very seldom will you see them eat something and get ill from it. I certainly haven't seen that really take place in the wild, and I've seen leopards and lions eat some pretty disgusting things. I've once seen lions eating a giraffe in the Sand River, where the giraffe had turned a green coloration and was starting to become liquid. It was sort of liquefying and dripping, and they were still eating it, and they were absolutely fine. So they have strong abilities to digest. Yes, calm down, baboons. There's a leopard. Everything will be okay. Good. Anyway, the baboons are screaming and shouting and doing their thing. Tingana is still sleeping, but Ollie has finally had a little bit of success and found himself a bird.
Oh yes, I found something. A bird. I was on my way to Buffelshoek Dam, and then I saw this bird, which is a francolin. So I'm trying to figure out which francolin is this, because it has yellow legs and it's wet. What happened was, it just came out from the grasses there, and it came straight to a road, and I nearly walked on top of it. I thought it was going to fly, but nothing. It couldn't. I think it's too wet to fly. But I doubt, because birds, they have this special gland that they produce, and then it turns into oil, and then they become waterproofed. Hello, Betty. Have you seen a leopard this morning? Nothing. How can I look for a leopard? Oh, sorry. It's feeling cold. I wish I can offer this bird some blanket here or some clothing. But it's a no-no. This is one of the traffics you can find here in the bush. So I'll press forward and see what I will find there in the bush. And don't forget, Seb is the one who's giving you all these wonderful pictures behind the camera. Ooh. It just ran. It didn't fly. I think it can. It can't fly. It's not only difficult for us during this weather and some other species like birds. If it rains a lot, they struggle. So I left my bird, heading straight to Buffelshoek Dam. But for now, let's go to Tristan with his rosetted cat.
Well done. At least you've started on the scoreboard. Hopefully there'll be something in wait at Buffelshoek Dam, maybe little Klalamba hanging around somewhere in that area. Although I would suspect that little Klalamba maybe is taking it very easy and trying to kind of hide out from this horrible weather that we're having. And also, much like Tingana, is sitting in a thicket resting. But hopefully she's around the dam and we'll be able to kind of see her and figure out what she's been up to. It would be nice to kind of see her again this morning, I would imagine. I'm sure Ollie would be happy to see her as well. Still impressed at the size of the impala that she managed to bring down. Very, very cool that she managed to get such a big meal. Beverly, it's a bit of a difficult question in that every day is different for a leopard, and some days they're going to sleep a lot more and others not. But generally, if we think about it, there's at least probably in a 24-hour period they're going to be sleeping sort of 10 to 15 hours at least. That's kind of on a sort of average day. Obviously, some days maybe potentially hunting conditions are better and they try and move around a lot more. Or there's days like this where Tingana's got a big meal. He doesn't have to go anywhere. The conditions are right for him to just lie wherever he wants to and rest. And therefore, he'll probably sleep a lot more. He'll probably sleep closer towards sort of 20 hours during the course of this 24-hour period. So it just depends. It's always variable with them. A leopard is not quite like lions. I find that they tend to move a lot more than lions, and tend to be a lot more active at random times of the day. This whole notion that a leopard is only nocturnal, strictly nocturnal, is obviously been disproven many times by the fact that we often find leopards walking around at 12 o'clock in the day here in the Sabi Sands, and even hunting during the day. And this is a case in point. Tingana made this kill, I think, at about 10 o'clock yesterday morning, 10 o'clock, somewhere there. In the morning, and it was, a lot warmer, and so you wouldn't expect him to be moving around at that time of the day. But obviously, opportunity is something that a leopard thrives on and will take. And so, they are active whenever they need to be active. I mean, I have seen also lions moving around, but it's interesting to tend to see kind of the lions in the Mara a lot more active during the day than the lions here. Our lions here tend to move around a lot sort of at dawn and dusk, and then just into the night and just before the sun rises. But you don't see them too much during the day moving around. It does happen every now and then, but it's not like the Mara. The Mara lions tend to be fairly active during the day. I mean, I've had many occasions where following lions in the Mara and 12 o'clock in the day they're actively hunting, even on a warm day. So it just seems as though there's different kind of methods. I'm not sure why that is. It's not like the lions in the Mara don't have opportunity to find food at night, and certainly don't camouflage very well. It's just for some reason they've worked out. Maybe it's because of the prey animals that they're targeting. A lot of the Mara lions target warthogs, and warthogs obviously aren't around at night. They tend to hide away, and so maybe that's why they actively look for warthogs during those hot parts of the day to be able to find them. Could be part of it. Obviously, the lions of the Mara are a topic today and last night, given what took place. And I honestly haven't seen any of what happened. I just heard about it from various people, but go and have a little look and see. It sounds quite disturbing, though, to watch, and certainly a confusing sighting by the sounds of things. Good. Now, it seems as though Oli has arrived at Buffelshoek Dam, and therefore there is the star of the show and star of the season, the most exciting hippo in the world. So let's go have a look at what Scuba Steve is up to now.
Yes, indeed, Tristan. I'm here with Scuba Steve and his girlfriend. I thought he was dumped, but nah. It simply means they had a conflict, and then Snorkel Sarah left, so she's back on track. They have resolved their issues. They are now good. So, Seb, can you see that island there? That's popping out there. And that island is breaking my heart there. That island is really breaking my heart because that one just right next to, see that hippo? That hippo, there's an island just right next to that hippo. Something like it's popping out there. It's breaking my heart because it simply means this dam is drying up. Oh, shame on you, Scuba Steve. And you can see all the vegetation that's growing in here. I don't know whether you'll get this because of the roof. So we can't go there, but there's vegetation growing there. You can see where they are growing. It simply means it's drying. Hopefully we're going to have a lot of rain so that this dam doesn't dry up, so that we can have Scuba Steve anytime we like. What a nice and quiet morning. It's still drizzling. And before we went live, I had one of the hippo going like, and that's the sound I've never had live. It was my first time hearing a hippo making such a sound. I've heard that hippos, they've been known to make sounds underneath the water. So this is what I've heard. So I'm still in search of Thandi. But now I've decided that maybe she will be searching for us and show herself to us, because I've searched all over the place from south side to the east side. But I won't give up. I will go to the west and check whether I'll find something there. Maybe I'll bump to Kumuri, our male leopard. I'm not here to stay, Scuba Steve. Let me love and leave you. But for now, while I'm doing that, let's go up to the Mara and see the little ones.
Very well done, Oli, and you're there. We decided to come and look what we saw from about 2 miles away. And truly what we saw was correct. We saw some little sticks jumping up and down from a distance. And look at that face. Look who's sneaking, looking with those shy eyes there. And I'm thinking those could be kinktails, lioness cubs. And how nice to see these cubbies here. And interesting. They're in the same spot I left them yesterday, which initially I doubted, and I was wrong. I guessed they might have only come here to keep cool, because by the time we were leaving them, it was getting warm, and they would have gone maybe later on when to cool down to their usual bedding place in a particular lager or some sort of valley for the night. Now, I've seen 7 cubs here in total. We got those 3 there. And you've got another 4 that have disappeared in the grass on my left. But what is interesting, there's not one adult at home. There's not one adult in the house. All the adults I cannot see. 5 of the females of the sausage tree pride. None of them is here. My guess is either last night or early this morning, and more so early this morning, they went to get some food somewhere. Look at that one there, just resting her chin on top of that vasta-like tree. I would call it a vasta tree. It's broken, and not sure what broke it. You see, it looks dry. And it's good that even me and Manu, who is on camera today, we are going, wow, how cool just to see this. And the beauty of the Mara Savannah with the Olorolo escarpment in the background there. And it's one place you just want to come, park your car, and get yourself a cup of coffee, and just keep watching without closing your eyes for hours and hours. So my guess is that one cub you see there belongs to Kingtail, because she got the tiniest or the youngest or the newest cubs in this particular pride. And yesterday, more than any other day, I was able to confirm almost 100% that she got 3 cubs and not 2 and not 4. At one point we counted 9 cubs, then the number went up to 10, but by the time we left them yesterday, we counted 11. 11 with 5 females and 1 member of the Oldonyo Pike males, that coalition. Not sure where the other one was, but we've been seeing one who have been keeping a very close eye on this particular pride. Hello, you look so curious. Are you wondering where Mom is? Gav, you're saying these cubs look very well fed. Yes, I'll tell you what. Their mothers are wonderful mothers. They're very good when it comes to hunting. And I'm sure you know, we do not have the migration or the wildebeest in the thousands, as most of them are in Tanzania, in Serengeti. So what is happening? They need to hunt some big game, giraffes, elands or buffaloes. But this particular pride have been doing very well in bringing buffaloes down. And of course, if they're well fed, it will definitely, the cubs are also in good shape. I just love the position, or I just love the posture of that particular, oops, you should not have gone to play, you should have remained where you are. I love the way she had her pose right there, laying her chin on the that huge branch, broken branch, and just looking at us. Clever animals lions are, because look carefully at how they're blending in. I mean, the cubs and the dried leaves. I'm sure they'll always first, survey an area before committing their cubs. So definitely they left them here for a reason. It's either time to sharpen their teeth, close, and they will bite anything at the moment. I mean, because of their age, they're full of energy, and what they'll keep doing is to keep playing. So what we want to do, Larimore, too cute, always very good to hear your name. Let me give you a different angle, Larimore, and you tell me what you think of this. I'm sure you're gonna love it. Larimore, I hope you're still there. I'm giving you a different angle. You say too cute. I'm not sure now what you're going to say from this angle. Might want me move forward a bit again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to move forward. They are just becoming a better and better and better position with time. So I got to move another few meters so that you can have a better view of these cubs here. They're full of energy and just jumping up and down. Okay, cool. So there's a broken huge log there, and I'm just guessing hopefully that's why they're going to jump up and keep playing on top of it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be requesting you as usual, one word tweet on these cubs. What do you think on these cute cubs that are full of energy, jumping down and resting the chins on this log? We got 3 of them, of the 7 that I had seen earlier. Let me know, #SafariLive on Twitter. I think Larimore just said too cute. Most likely you might get a new one now. Larimore, and tell me, what do you think? #SafariLive on Twitter. As I guess now they're playing hide and seek, maybe? I'm just trying to imagine where the mothers could be, but not, apart from imagining where the mothers could be, how far they are from here. So you got that one on top of that log there, and I guess the other 2, either they're communicating or playing their games as usual below that log. What can you smell? What are you looking on top of that tree? I'm not sure whether you know so much. Janice, you say precious. Thank you very much. This is truly precious to see such small little cubs entertaining us. What did Romet say? Sorry, Nina?
Flabbergast.
Flabbergast, Romet. Yes, very good, Romet. How are you today? And I hope you're doing well. And yeah, once we hear of Kadogo and Gumba, as you asked me the other day, Romet, we'll definitely be letting you know. And I hope, Romet, you also watched the drama last night of the Marsh Pride and the Oloro Pride going for each other. Carol, heartwarming. Thank you very much, Carol. It is truly heartwarming when, if Carol, you remember what happened yesterday, and you see cubs, I would guess more or less a little younger than what we saw yesterday, just being so playful. It is truly heartwarming, and it gives us all our spirits back, and we have reason to smile after we saw the heart-breaking infanticide or lion cubs being mauled down. It's truly heartwarming. Keep sending your tweets, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. It could be one word, it could be 2 words, it could be 3 words. You're welcome to send us your feel, because we truly appreciate that. Arizona, what would happen is, if the mothers will go to a long distance, if they notice the distance is long, it's not worth, having the cubs along with them. And what happens, unfortunately, sometimes Arizona, the cubs will always spoil the hunt. So we have noticed, or we have seen lions after following them for very many years, they will always give instructions to the cubs and will tell them, what you do, Arizona, stay put, don't move. And I tell you, they do not move. They remain here. So they may go, because most of these cubs are suckling cubs. They may not have to, they may not need to eat meat. The mothers will go out, go do the hunt, and possibly, eat before coming back. And once they do that, then they'll come and suckle their cubs. They may choose to go back to the kill with the cubs, or go eat again, then come back. We got some vultures on top of that tree. Well done, Manu. And those are the lappet-faced vultures. Lappet-faced vultures, which are the largest vultures that we got in Africa. And to see in one frame the cub there, and the vultures, and the torchwood trees, and the beautiful savanna, not forgetting the growing tall red oat grass. It's just beautiful. Jeff, that's a very good, pertinent question. Now, birds of prey are always a very big concern to cubs. Not what you see there. In general, vultures do hunt. In general, they do scavenge, if I may say that. But the biggest concern of these cubs here are the biggest birds of prey. And I'm talking of number one, the biggest culprit is the martial eagle. Once in a while, we have had crown eagles, but where we are, martial eagles, I would point a finger to them. I mean, you see the escarpment in the background there. We've got some forests or some very heavy thickets there where we have seen martial eagles either patching or nesting, and not once they have been known to fly down and using the very strong talons picking up lion cubs, which I would think could be a better way, not sure what I'm saying, but could be a better way of losing a lion cub than what we saw yesterday. So, yeah, Jeff, you got a point there. That's the beautiful Mara or Olor escarpment, where once in a while we have seen martial eagles. Very rare cases we have had of crown eagles going for lion cubs, but martial eagles are the main birds of prey that will go for these cubs. So all the Olor escarpment, and you're back to a one cub. She has repositioned herself, and see the position she is in now. If you did not know there was anything there, you wouldn't see it. Caroline, how long will the mothers be away for? Caroline, I'll tell you what, I have no idea. I do not know when they left, and have no idea when they'll come back. But one thing, Caroline, I know for a fact, they will not be long, because they need to come and suckle these cubs. They need to come and back and find out how they're doing, because they may be facing a few concerns. I'm talking of the hyenas, leopards, and as I just said, the martial eagles. Of all the big birds of prey, martial eagles have been known to grab such small little cubs. So it could be any time, Caroline. I am not going anywhere. We are staying here with Manu, and hopefully we'll see these lionesses come back. Or we might decide to drive around and keep looking where they could be, because when we saw those two vultures up there, Caroline, we're like, wow, could there be a kill nearby? But When we left them here yesterday, the Sausage Pride, there was no prey of some sort. The nearest prey from where we are was some buffaloes, and they were about miles away. It is possible they would have gone in that direction, and we have agreed with Manu we might head that way, just to chance, because you never know, because we know this pride, they're very good in bringing down buffaloes. Where are the other two of your friends? Are they under that log warming up, or what are they doing? Now, they're equally clever cubs. I mean, they don't want to expose themselves very much. So, by staying under the log, that's the best, I would say, the safest place for them to be in. Otherwise, up there where that one is, should you get a macho eagle flying around from a distance, you're like, I got some breakfast. So the vultures we saw there, unless, of course, they come down or they come for a dead lion cub, or like the cubs you saw yesterday, it's very unusual for them single-handedly to bring down a live lion cub. It's not very normal, not one that I know of. I'm trying to imagine from here what direction I will take, because I can see buffaloes way ahead of me, and the buffaloes, the herd that I saw yesterday, so the best bet is just to drive around and chance and see where the mamas or the mothers of these calves could be. And as I make that decision, let's find out what sleeping Tingana is doing.
Well, David, we are patiently waiting. Unfortunately, we don't have any buffaloes around, and there's no mom of Tingana either that's going to come. So we're just patiently hoping that eventually, some point, Tingana is going to decide either to move towards the kill or just move in general. But we, at the moment, are not winning our patience battle. We are losing heavily at this stage. As you can see, he's really fast asleep. The baboons are still sitting in the same spot, still shouting at him, so no one's really given way and moved or anything like that. Tingana got a bit kind of nervy at one point because there was a male baboon that sort of moved fairly close, and he kind of got his legs underneath him, and he was almost looked as though he was about to run or charge, and then the male baboon kind of shifted off towards a tree and climbed the tree, and then Tingy kind of rolled onto his side like you see him now. So, he's fine as long as they're not too close to him. Then he's generally okay with what's going on. But I'm surprised with all the shouting of these baboons. It's a lot of alarm calling that we haven't had a nosy hyena kind of arrive here and just check out what's going on. Often hyenas will be the first ones to arrive at any sort of alarm calls. They come and check out what's going on, and maybe even any other leopard or something like that. But it's been quiet. We haven't seen anything really kind of moving around. It's just been the baboons and Tingana that's kept us company, and a bit of rain, which is now eased off, thankfully. It's no longer raining nearly as much as what it was just now, and has brightened up quite a bit, that's for sure. Now, we were saying that Tingana is looking in good condition at the moment, but you'll be able to see. Okay, so before we get into Tingana's condition, Kira, where do the baboons sleep at night? Well, it depends where they are, really, but generally they will aim to try and find an area with big, tall trees. So they'll try and find somewhere where there's nice big jackalberries or tamburtis, or pretty much along drainage lines and lodges, essentially, because that's where most of your really nice big trees are. And then they get up into those trees, and then they'll spend the night up there. Generally, it's a tree that's foliated, so they're not a huge fan of sitting in trees that are completely kind of bare of leaves, if they can help it. And then they'll try and get in, and then they sit there and they sleep up in the tree for the night, come down in the morning and start to move around. Very noisy this morning. Right, now I was saying just now that you can see that Tingana we're saying he's in good condition for his age, and he's kind of full and his belly's quite big. But if you look on his hip area, now this is what you'll start to see as leopards start to get older, is you'll notice that there's a slight depression there. So what happens is with these guys is they start to have a bit of atrophy that starts to take place on the hindquarters particularly. And that will slowly but surely, you'll find that their legs and their back ends start to get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, and they lose a little bit of weight through there. Now, of course, there's nothing to worry about on him. He's absolutely fine, but you can see there's just a slight depression that's starting to develop there. In a big, healthy adult male, you don't really see that around the hip area. So that will start to kind of happen, and it's obviously takes time for it to happen. It's not like we have to worry about Tingana today or going forward for the next 6-7 months, but you'll start to notice more and more that those hips just lose a little bit of definition, and they start to get a little bit thinner, and that will take place. And so sometimes it's a way of helping with aging of these animals. The older they get, the more that kind of area starts to sink in a little bit, and you start to get that more kind of atrophied look to their hip sections. Now, of course, he's in a lot better condition than he was this time last year, and so good meals and those kind of things do help with adding a bit of weight, but he's going to get to the age where eventually it's not going to help him. Even if he eats a lot, he's going to still kind of have a little bit of loss of body condition. It's just unfortunately what happens when you age as an animal or as a person. There's not much you can really do about it, unfortunately. It's just the toll of being out here and moving around takes effect. What's interesting, though, is that theoretically, Tingana at this stage is looking the way he is, and he's going to go into a winter period now, and generally winter is a very good time for our predators. They normally do quite well as the prey animals get weaker, and at this rate, if we don't get a huge amount of rain over the course of the next month or so, it's going to be what's probably going to be deemed a green drought. So it's going to be very difficult from a water point of view, but food, there should be more than enough food for the animals to survive at this stage. But that might mean that there will be a lot of weak animals, which will theoretically be good for Tingana. He's going to be able to sorry, I've got a fly that's hitting me in the face. He's going to be able to find food fairly regularly, and so let's say that happens, and then he goes into the lambing season and does all right there. Another year of Tingana being around is a long time, and it'll be interesting to see how old Tingana actually goes. Of course, most males are generally expected to be sort of 12 to 13 when they start to deteriorate quite fast and become nomadic, and then obviously die off. Whereas, he at this stage is, if he can get through a good year of feeding, which this year promises probably to be fairly decent in terms of being able to sustain himself, then he'll be facing starting to look more along the lines of 14. And if he can make it that far, then he's done incredibly well. The oldest male that I've seen personally is probably Campan. He made it, I think, to almost 16 when he died, which is incredibly old for a male leopard. So I wonder if Tingy's going to be one of those. I, funny enough, don't really like it though when the males get too old. I think it's always so sad to watch an animal that was so magnificent to kind of deteriorate to the point where they, like a mvula, where it becomes just skin and bones, and you kind of, they lose a lot of their majesty when they're like that, and it's almost like they suffer their way through their last few months, which I never really enjoy. I think it's sometimes, in some ways, better when a dominant male leopard starts to kind of lose his way and becomes nomadic, that he, unfortunately dies in some sort of a quick event where he doesn't have to suffer for weeks on end with, basically starving to death. I think that's always the worst way for an animal to go. It's never pleasant for something to walk around with no teeth and kind of, like I say, basically starving. You can imagine as a person how difficult that would be to go through, and so you don't really want to see that in an animal. So hopefully it won't be that way. I mean, it's always a shock when animals get killed in a quick event, but I always find in an old animal it's probably better than kind of the suffering that can take place for days in, days out. Anyway, so a bit of a morbid topic we got onto there. I don't know how we descended into that area, but it's kind of where we went with it, unfortunately. I suppose this is part of spending a lot of time with the sleeping cat, is that you start devolving into all kinds of different topics that are related to them, and, I suppose that's part of it. Now, I believe a number of you are agreeing with the fact that it's nice to see a quicker end rather than a slow, kind of painful death. Now you can see with the screaming of the baboons, Tingy is trying to move, but not too much that he gets seen. You see how he's trying to keep his head down the whole time? So as much as he wants to look up and see what the baboons are doing, he also knows that if he pops his head up, he's going to get shouted at a lot more. So he's kind of trying to position himself and sort of shuffle, but still stay as low as possible. It's actually been quite entertaining to watch him try and hide away as best he can. Of course, he's not hidden at all, and he's been shouted at still, but he's trying to get comfortable and kind of shift and move without sort of being too brazen about his movements. And I have a feeling that these baboons are going to shout at him for quite a lot longer during the course of today, and it's not going to be the most comfortable thing unless he decides he's had enough and just kind of pops his head up. But you see how he's trying to look around, but he doesn't want to lift his head too high out of the grass. He's kind of trying to keep it down as much as possible, but still be able to see what's going on. Tingy, are the baboons upsetting your sleep, boy? Seems like it. See how he just tries to get his head down when he sees that the baboons are kind of looking in his way. It's that typical sort of camouflage that a leopard will do. It's almost as though he's hunting in many respects. You know, when they hunt, they kind of put their head down like that. And of course, he's not hunting these baboons. He's just really trying to hide away as best he can and keep his profile as low as possible. And often we talk about when we walk a leopard or we go into an area and we're tracking leopards, we say that they'll see you and then they'll go flat. This is a prime example of what we're talking about. So the way that he's doing this is the same way he would do if a person approached and he didn't want to move, is that he'll try and kind of just look over the top of the grass and stay as low as possible to try and camouflage and make sure that he's not seen, but he can still see you kind of walking past. And that's why often we miss a leopard if we're not in the right sort of place to spot them, and you can kind of go right past them. Good. We're going to stay here. He's moved a lot more in the last little bit than he has in a while, so we'll just see if maybe he's going to stand up at some point. In the meantime, though, back over to Oily, see how he's doing this morning.
Listen to that squirrel alarming. Trying to look where this squirrel is facing because it's angry. I'll take my binoculars because it's on top of a tree there. Because we are on our way to the western direction, and where we at right now, it's where Thandi was spotted, was last seen yesterday. So I think I'll just go in this area over here. Can you hear it? It's crazy. And I can't show you the squirrel because it's on top of a tree and we have a roof here. Hopefully we'll find something here. Check for the tracks. Where is squirrel now? Just kept quiet, but I will just look in these tall and long grasses. We have the fresh tracks of a running antelope here, coming from a direction going there. Hopefully we'll find something just around the bushes. Crossing fingers. I'll just stop there and listen again. Oh, it's thick. Stop and listen again. The squirrel has stopped. Oh,
I don't know which direction to go now because I couldn't see exactly the squirrel where it was facing. But I will make a turn here because I don't want to off-road for something I can't really see. If I saw fresh tracks, I would have off-roaded. But I'll stay on the road and maybe I'll be the luckiest guy this morning. Oh, no. Oh, baboon tracks. Confusing. I thought they are leopard tracks. They are so confusing. Oh, so while I'm searching and searching, but I'm positive. For now, let's go and see these fluffy little things with David Kitu.
I'm very convinced, Ollie, you'll be a lucky boy at the end of the day because this one cub wants to bite the tail of the other. And for those of you who know who this particular pride very well, there's one lioness who is the oldest that we call Kinktail, and we call her so because she got a bent on her tail, and we do not know what might have transpired for that to happen, and we have always had our own theories, and we think maybe either another lioness or a lion could have beaten it way back, and then, she never recovered. We do not know. So, I'm not sure this one is trying to do the same, and the other one is just looking at her. Please stop that. I'm not sure I'm happy, or I don't like what exactly you are doing. It's not right. We've been waiting here since the last time we were with you, hoping that the females will resurface, and they have not. And we're making a decision of trying to move and find out the possible places there would be. So we have to look for either vultures on top of trees or buffaloes. So as you say, this makes you so happy. Yes, you only have one thing to do to be full of joy. If especially you saw what happened last evening, definitely this should give you happiness and nothing else but happiness. That we still got lots of cabs in the Masai Mara. We still got lots of cabs that are doing very well. Now, the mothers definitely must have gone for a hunt, and they said we'll either be looking for some vultures on top of trees or just look where I would see a huge herd of buffalo and chance to see the mothers, because that's the only place they would be. They cannot be anywhere else. Susan, what happens is you like to know how the dynamics of lions go in terms of denning their cubs. If each one pride, they give birth at different times. Sometimes they're separated by a week, a month, or two. It depends. You'll see every female, depending on where maybe the labor comes in, or depending on where they are at a particular time, it's very unusual to see a particular lioness going to an area where another lioness gave birth, although it is possible. Now, this particular pride, there are 5 females, and I think all of them got cubs, and 3 of them gave birth at dens that we easily identify. 2 we do not know, but the 3, Susan, that we know were very different, but not very far from each other. I'm sure, Susan, you know that lions are very territorial, so they tend to keep in the same area as much as they'll keep shifting once in a while. I'm imagining these 3 have agreed, one that is on your right of your screen, to have a nap. I think she is flat asleep. Not sure, looking under the tail, whether it's a boy or a girl. Manu, what do you think?
It's a boy.
Manu thinks a boy. Are you sure, Manu? Okay, I'll trust you, Manu. You have better eyes than me from where you are. So that boy is sleeping. We don't know who the other 2 are, but you can see he is in dreamland. In general, males sleep more than females. And of course, if it's a boy, I'm not surprised. He have started to do his thing early as typical males. Sleeping. Alison, the easiest way to tell male cubs from female cubs is only one: to look under their tails. We have made a few mistakes once in a while where we have thought that one, because a bit dark, is a female. That one, because a bit light, it's a male. And then we have been proved wrong by the same cubs. So Alison, I would say, to be 110% sure, always look at the cub in that particular age. But once Alison, they start going 3, 4, 5 months, you'll easily pick it up. The males will start showing that character of being masculine. They'll start showing a bit of more of their fur around the neck, getting longer than in the females. That's where that time you can tell. But at this particular age, we are very lucky. You've seen that one on the right. You can see the testicles there, and he is a boy. The two that are looking at us, no idea, Alison. We can only guess, but I'm sure with time, ideally, time will tell who they are. Hello. Thank you for being awake. Thank you for looking. Oh, looks good. Good morning. What I usually do not know is, would they be able to know when the mothers are coming or not? I have no idea. Luis, you say they are beautiful. And who would not want to see lion cubs, Luis? And especially in the morning like this. We were with them here yesterday. We followed them for about a mile. And they brought us here. But before they brought us here, they went and found themselves a water pan. Passing the water pan, man, what do you do? Which the camera put to me this morning. This frog my pride. And that was to me one of the best, I would say, lion sighting I've had. I went out on the road with the 5 females, and I walked with them for like a whole 5 special. I was telling man, they look like goats on the road. Anyhow, then I thought, let's just frog march them, and we move in front of them, and then we could just fill in them as they were coming towards us. But shortly after, they decided to detour and enter the grass. And I'm like, oh no. Anyhow, we followed them slowly, and I found a water pan somewhere. And I said, you know what? In my heart, chances are these lions might be going for a drink. And that's exactly what they did. It was amazing to see the adults and the cubs quenching their thirst in that particular waterhole. Then after that, we saw this broken tree there under, and I thought, because it's getting a little warm, it's getting a little hot, they'll definitely go and look for some shade for the rest part of the day. And they did exactly that. I was full of joy yesterday morning. And then it was time to move on, and we left them. And somehow, by not trusting they could be in the same spot, I thought, well, that place was too open. As you can see in that tree, that's the only cover that is here. I guessed chances are it could be too cold for the cubs, and the mothers will take them in a much warmer place or in a kind of a den or some thickets. I was wrong. The cubs are still here. I've seen total 7. I've seen these 3, and the other 4 must be behind us somewhere in the grass. We didn't want to follow them because of the tall grass and the boulders in that particular area. So you might hear another vehicle pulling on or pulling in. We'll always try and share information as much as we can with our friends, and they may also benefit from the same. Either these cubs know us so well. You notice how relaxed she was, or they were, until the other vehicle came in, and she was like, who are you? We only know David and Manu. But after some time, you can see she has warmed up, relaxed, and still looking right at my face. I'm not sure whether I would communicate with you. I don't know what I would tell you. Kellen, what would happen here is all lions, or we all know that lions are very social. And what would happen, these three could be siblings. Of course, sometimes you say blood is thicker than water. And they'll have that, commonality. If we're brothers here, let's move together, because the four that I saw moving behind could be belonging to the one family that we call Miti. And then these three, if you look at them carefully, they look to be the same age. And I'm guessing these are kinktails. It's very possible that, siblings will stay together. So you'll get a particular set or a particular litter of one female and another separately. And, sorry, that's just as it was getting a little bit warm. At the end of it, in close proximity also to take care of each other. Come on, everybody, stay under the tree, stay under the grasses, stay under these branches. And what a position to be on that particular termite mound at the base of that tree. My thinking is that termite mound could be exuding some kind of warmth to them. That's exactly, they are right there. Apart from blending in, we know, or I imagine, there are loads of termites under there. And because of the body activity of the body heat, a lot of it is being dissipated. And that's what they are benefiting from. Cabbies, do you have an idea when Mom will come back? Well, they have no idea when Mom will come back. But on top of the tree there, I'm not sure you can hear some birds that are just making noise. And those are the white-bellied goy, but you can't see them very well. They're on top of the tree. But those are white-bellied goy birds. I am not very sure why Tingana does not want to wake up and give us some bit of action.
That David gets to see them. We have had serious patience pants on this morning and have not been rewarded. In fact, it's been 6 hours of patience pants between last night and this morning. And yes, Tingy has given us very, very, very little. I'm surprised, to be honest, that he hasn't gone and at least had a little bit of a nibble in the time that we've been sitting with him. Are you waking up now, boy, or not? A bit of a stretch and kind of... No, I think he's just very, very happy with where he is at the moment. I don't think he really wants to go anywhere. He's got himself a little pillow now. There's a fallen over branch in amongst the grass that is the perfect place for him to lay his head and have a little bit of a kind of nap on the pillow of grass and wood, and he can then fall asleep properly. So I don't think we're going to spend too much longer with him. I was hoping that we would get some semblance of movement out of him this morning, but alas, the Duke is tired and therefore quite sleepy. But before we go anywhere, I actually want to try and have a little look at the carcass, see if we can get a bit of a view for you guys. I'm just going to have to turn the car slightly. Tingy is not even waking up at the start of a vehicle. It's delightful. Right. Careful there, Craig. We've got dripping water. Now, the carcass should be directly in front of us. I'm not sure Craig's going to be able to see any of it, given how kind of overgrown it is. But don't worry, Craig, I'm going to try and position us slightly differently. Let's try and go forward here. And then like over my right shoulder maybe is where we're going to get this right. Let's have a look, Craig. Let's see what you can get when you go in there. So there you can kind of see it. Let me roll forward a bit, Craigie. It's going to be better if I roll a little bit for you. There we go. I think that's going to be a bit better. So inside there is where the carcass is. Now you can see sort of one side of it is coming towards us, which is still quite whole, which is that side, and then it kind of goes off away from us, and there's a bit of red that you can see where he's eaten in the back. Now, how much of that carcass has actually been fed upon, I'm not quite sure. Very tricky to kind of see in amongst this to be able to discern exactly how much has been eaten, but there still looks like a serious amount of meat that is left on there. If you just kind of figure out how far it goes from left to right in the frame, that's a good day's meal, maybe even 2 days left on it. So hopefully he'll hoist it in this tree next to us at some point, and then we'll be able to actually get a full kind of idea of how much is actually left. I'm trying to look myself to see how big it is, but it's really not very easy to see in amongst all of that. I'm also trying to work out which side is which, to be honest with you. The head is this side, Craig. Okay, so he's eaten a bit of the rump, but there's still a lot of food inside there. Tingy, this afternoon you need to be better than what you've been this morning. You need to wake up a little bit. So we're going to go scratch around and maybe just do a little loop about. There were some Franklins that were alarm calling not too far from here, so we're going to go and just see what they were shouting at. Probably a bird of prey or something like that. Also, let's just wait for all of this to dribble out. Sorry. We're at an angle now, so it's the perfect way to just kind of let all the water that's accumulated on the roof dribble out so it doesn't hit me. You may see it kind of coming out there, so that's what we're kind of waiting for. Oh, Craig, this is perfect. We've done this the right way. It's all gone off the front so that I don't get my legs and head wet, which is very, very pleasant. Good. Now we're going to leave some spots, but it sounds like Ollie has found some stripes for all of you.
Yes, indeed. I have these stripy donkeys or stripy horses. That's what I call these zebras, because of this beautiful stripy coloration. If you can look now, they are grazing. If you look at their faces, they have these strong black muzzles, and the upper lip is movable. They use this upper lip to push grasses between their incisors and then snip the grass off. That's what they do. And we prefer short grasses. Seldomly they can go for tall grasses. Oh, we have a youngster on top there. That's the youngster. I think this is the herd I've seen yesterday. Hello, youngster. This is pure beauty, if I can say. We also have this beautiful impalas. And we normally see antelopes in one area, and this is called mutualism, because the zebras just grazes, and the impalas are both grazes and browsers. Oh, look at that. And this coloration, it looks as if it's been painted by an artist. Yeah. This species is so beautiful. Wow. AB, yes, I also love seeing zebras because of their skin, I can say. I just love them. I also love them a lot. And what I also like about these zebras, every time they get frightened or they just run or start running, they will fart like all the time. It's because of the gases in their stomach. That's why you always see them bloated. I've never seen a zebra skinny unless it's been locked in a cage for years. But these ones, normal zebras, they always look fat. what you normally see is their mane lying down or just fallen on the side. That's when you can tell that the zebras are not feeling well. Ingrid, yes, it is been painted by an artist. It doesn't look like skin, like, if I can tell you. It looks like this piece of art on your wall there with the black and white stripes. It doesn't look anything like a coat. And you can think that these stripes are the same, but all the zebras have different stripes like our fingerprints. And they look so big, hey? And the full-grown zebra can weigh up to 320 kilograms. And that's huge. And going back to its mouth part there, they have these sharp incisors that they can bite, because sometimes when they are being hunted by lions, they can bite. So for now, I'm still searching for Thandi because of that squirrel. Let me take you up to the north with David Kitu.
Keep searching, Oli. Thandi might show up. So I have decided to leave our cabs and thought I should just drive in this ocean of grass. I'll first stop here for a couple of seconds and you see what I'm talking about when I talk of ocean of grass. I mean, it's long grass, and I'm imagining if it's some type of cereal, it is just great to see it. And maybe go look or find out where these sausage girls are. Look at that amount of grass that will wait for a couple of more months before we get the migration here. I'm talking about wildebeest and zebras, because there's a toppy there, and toppies cannot do much. Toppies will always want to get the soft grass, so this is just too big for them, maybe not even palatable to them. And there's an eagle there, but more of the tall grass there. So I want to chance in this tall grass because they could be anywhere, and I'll not be surprised. So what we want to look for is buffaloes. Anyone will see buffaloes will be right place to maybe see these females. But in the meantime, how beautiful is that? Excellent. Now, let's move. We have time to find out where the female sausages are. I wouldn't expect them to be very far from those cubs, but as much as I've seen them, sometimes there's a time I saw Limpy. Limpy is one of the females in that pride. I saw her about 2-3 miles away from the cubs, and if you all remember, originally Limpy had 2 cubs and she lost one, and nobody knows what's happened to that particular one. And it's like now when the lionesses go look for food that their cubs become very vulnerable. So hopefully nothing goes wrong. In that place we have left them such a strategic place just to blend in and to hide very well. If we did not know they were there from yesterday, we wouldn't even seen them. But just because we were there yesterday and we saw them, that's how we ended up going to the same place. Lots of grass, as I said earlier. I would call it an ocean of grass because it's just too long, and we'll be very lucky to see anything moving. Versus the kitchen, you're asking how many cubs can one lioness get? It's between 1 and 4 in normal circumstances. For new mothers, they'll get 1. For little older mothers, they'll get 2, 3, and sometimes 4. So anything between 1 to 4 is okay, but the average or the standard is 2. In that particular pride, we got Limpy that I was talking about, who had 2 cubs. There's another one female who we have yet to give a name, who got 2 cubs, pretty old. And now Kingtail, being the oldest of the females that pride, got 3. So it varies. And then we also think there's one other female there who we think is the youngest that got 1 cub. Anything 1 to 4, it is within the normal. So age in general determines the number of cubs they get. The older the females are, the more. Now, apart from grass here, I haven't seen anything else. From a distance, I can see some ellis. Not what exactly I'm looking for, but it's always nice to hear of a leopard sitting up.
Well, we were about to leave Tingana and we kind of had gone across the dam wall and then noticed that he had perked up quite a bit and was yawning and he's been scratching and kind of looks as though he's about to get going. So we thought we'd just wait a little bit longer from up top here and just see what he gets up to. He's looking around a lot as if to see if the baboons are actually gone before he makes his next move. But he's far more awake than what we saw earlier, that's for sure. So I'm hoping that he's going to get up and go. We had a good look at his carcass when we kind of go out of that. When we left the sighting, there was actually a really nice gap. He's hardly eaten this kudu. There's very, very little that he's eaten. He's just eaten a small little piece off the rump and plucked it of fur. So I'm pretty sure, there we go, he's up now, which is good news for us. Hopefully he's going to move. Hello, boy. Good morning. So I think it's now that the baboons have left the area. That's why he's actually moving. He's seen now that no one's shouting at him when he stands up. And so he has the ability now to actually kind of move around without attracting too much attention to himself and inciting too much chaos. And that's probably why he's a lot more kind of perky and awake. Let's shake off all the rain that he's got on him at the moment. Now, if he starts walking towards the carcass, then we'll try and quickly shoot down to the bottom of back to where we were, because there is one gap that we might be able to get a view of him. It's going to be a bit tricky, but we'll try and figure it out as to how we're actually going to get to see it via the roof. Yes, he is going that way. All right, Craig, let's try and go around quickly. It's going to take us a few minutes just to get around, but we'll try and do it fairly fast. Yes, I know this is the wrong way to go to where we need to be, but I unfortunately do need to turn around somehow. Oof. 4 minutes. Craigie, I don't know if we're going to make 4 minutes. Let's try and see if we can get there in 4 minutes. It's going to be a quick... Here we go. We'll try and see if we can get there in the time frame that we have. We're also in low range, so driving too fast is not going to be easy. But anyway, let's try and get there and see if we can get him just feeding on the carcass a little bit. It would be nice if he took the carcass up into the tree in 4 minutes, but I doubt that's going to actually happen. I'm pretty sure we're going to just see him go and having a little feed. Of course, he would wait until the end. Typical Tingana, last-minute leopard that does these kind of things. Craig, you still on there? There we go. Craig's alright, he'll survive, don't worry everybody. He's a resilient fella. Okay, so he has settled to where the carcass is. Now I've got to try and get somewhere where I can give you a little bit of height so you can actually see what's going on. So Craig, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in like this, and I'm going to try and reverse us up this hill a little bit so that we can have a shot through the back end here. Hold on, Craigie. We're almost there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but How are we doing there, Craig? Are we good? Is the roof in the way now? Oh, this roof, I hate this roof. I'm trying to kind of figure out some way to get you guys to be able to see him feeding. And there was actually not a bad kind of view, but this roof is killing us. There we go, Craig. I think you'll be able to go straight in there and see him kind of feeding on the kill itself. There we go. So we made it with 2 minutes to spare, which is good news. But there you can kind of see the kill. If we didn't have the roof, we would have had a little bit more elevation to be able to actually see properly him feeding. But you can see there is a lot of meat still on there. He's really just eaten a small little chunk out of the rump. But I'm going to keep quiet and just listen for his teeth crunching. So you can hear there that he's just feeding off that kind of hip bone area at the moment, and then that carcass kind of lies in front of him. So he's still got a long way to go, and hopefully he's going to eat a little bit like this, lighten it up, and then up into the tree it's going to be for this afternoon safari, where his view of him will be a lot better. But at least we made it, and we got a bit of kind of excitement out of Tingane in the end, so we were rewarded after some patience. Unfortunately, though, it is that time of the day where we need to say goodbye to all of you, as we are going to head back, dry off, get some breakfast, and, well, David in the Mara is going to have a long drive home. He's got a long way to get back to where he needs to be. But hopefully you've enjoyed the morning. It's been a fairly relaxed, quiet morning after yesterday's chaos, and I think a far more pleasant one in terms of many things. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we will see you all this afternoon on our sunset safari.